So we're live. Over to you, sir.
Okay, good evening from wherever you're joining us right now. My name is Oluwamuyemi Orimolale. That could be a mouthful. Just call me Yemi for short. And we're super excited to have you here today. So if you're joining us and you're here, just please go into the chat room. Just drop your name and also tell me where you are hearing us live and direct from. So all I just need to know is your name, and of course your location. Just make it country. You're fantastic. I see Ganyu all the way from Lagos, Laskidi, Nigeria. I see Bado Thomas from Canada. Okay, that has my surname as well, right? So I see another Joy from Nigeria. Let the names, let your location keep coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I see David from Ijaniki, Thomas from Canada. Let it keep coming. I see Michael from Lagos. I see Sandeep from Delhi. Damilola from Lagos, Nigeria. Kiki from Nigeria. I like this Kiki. Kiki's in Kiruka, right? I see Mercy from Abuja, Nigeria. More names coming. I see Mohammed from Morocco. I am from, that's Chems from Italy. Adiolu from Muscat. Who else is here? I see Kende from Illinois, US. Othman from Morocco. Let the names keep coming. I see that we are also at 29 attendees at this moment. So let the name keep coming. I see Kashnish from India joining us as well. Peace from Lagos, Nigeria, or Peace from Nigeria. So let the names keep coming, let your location keep coming. And I think for us who have started, who have joined this call, we're super excited to have you on this call. And of course, this is actually redefining the work, business, and education through AI transformation. That's the theme of what we're speaking about today. But we are the Analytics and the AI Transformation Summit 2024. If you're excited to be part of us here, let me also see the emojis, your claps, your high fives, your everything, let me see them, in the chat room right now. Thank you for coming. So just like I said, Yemi is my name, Yemi for short, and I will be your moderator throughout the conversations that we are having today. And just like I rightly said, this is a 2-day event. Day one, we have it power packed. Just after now, we'll have some sessions around cybersecurity challenges in an AI world. We'll be talking about AI policies, regulations, and global impact. We'll also be looking into the impact of AI on education and higher learning. We'll be having a session here on AI and analytics scenarios, the scenarios from Microsoft Azure and Data Fabric. We would look at the all-well production forecasting, and I think this will have to do with something around machine learning on AI as well. And we also have AI and enterprise transformation for organization. Please would appreciate if you're not speaking, you can all mute yourself, just for each and every one of us to hear ourselves very well. So that will be our lineup for today. It's going to be for like 2 or 3 hours max, so that we don't overly bore you at this point in time. I know that some of us are joining us across the different part of the world. I am seated out of Lagos, Nigeria. I know probably Tosin is somewhere in Muscat. I see people from CA Canada, I see people from Italy here. So that we maximize our time today, we'll ensure that it will be worth your while, the next 2-3 hours. So let me jump back into the chat room to just see if we have more people that have joined us. We are currently 33 at this time. And I think this would be a very good time to start this. But just so that we have just so that we have some good understanding of what this is all about. This is a summit put together by the Thought Leader Center, and it's a think tank that brings leaders of industries together via inspiring and engaging events just like this. We endeavor to make conferences like this accessible to everyone. The average industry conference, of course, you know what it is, but we are just here to ensure that people can acquire knowledge, get insights, and of course, thought leadership across board. Today's event is born out of the need to discuss the trend in AI and how this impacts us in our daily lives. We know that AI has become like the new kid on the block. It's like the new oil that everybody keeps talking about. There are myths, there are misconceptions, there is that whole conversation around biases, there is that whole conversation around AI here to take our jobs. There is that conversation around AI is not here to take your job, but however, those who are not leveraging AI are the ones that their jobs will be taken. So there are so many conversations going around AI. There's also going to be the conversation around who owns content developed by an AI agent. So there are so many things, that we are here to unpack, in the next in the 2 days of this summit. But I think it will be nice for us to hear from the convener himself, the person that has put this together, the person who has the vision of what this entire program is all about. And let me make welcome Tosin, as we all call him, for him to give us some maybe few words on why this is happening. Afterwards, we now zoom in exactly into the different sessions that we'll be having today. So over to you, Tosin. Just give us an overview why we are doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemi. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm excited to be here, and this is more like a dream come true. And I've always done events over the years, but this is one of the first technical events that I am holding. And thank you to everyone who has joined today. You have actually made my year. This is an event that I have thought to do for over 3-4 months, but I actually started putting up the work 3 weeks ago. And in 1 week, when I put out the registration link, we already have 40-50 people joining. This is like super exciting for me, and I appreciate it. Why are we doing this? AI is something that everybody is still trying to get to grasps with. And at the Thought Leader Center, one of the things that we try to do is that we try to make conferences accessible and affordable for people, professionals. Typically, professionals have to go for events. When you look at the Gartner events, when you look at the HubSpot events, when you look at the Microsoft events, when you look at the Oracle events, when you look at the Apple events, of course, we see them all on YouTube. We see them everywhere. But those events are nice to watch on YouTube, but they are really not affordable. They are really, really $500, $300, $600. Even most people who attend those events cannot attend those events from their own pockets. Many people who attend those events are sponsored. And we typically, as professionals, don't have a culture, and more especially as Africans, we don't have a culture of attending conferences or events. I have attended a couple of events, and some of the speakers that we have tonight are a couple of people that I have met at an event or the other. And so what we are trying to do at the Thought Leader Center is to make events more accessible. For now, we are starting with virtual events, but with time, we hope to be able to go all the way into real life events and moving across continents and moving across locations. Today, I'm so excited again because I am seeing a lot of people that I've never met. I'm seeing someone like Shams, I'm seeing someone like Isam, I'm seeing someone like Adaize Nandi, I'm seeing someone like Favour Obioha, I'm seeing someone like Joy Diri, I'm seeing someone like Lubna El Furi, I'm seeing someone like Marines Aromain, I've seen someone like Mohammed Oda, I've seen someone like Mustafa Aitib. I'm seeing a lot of people that I don't know. I'm reading random names. I'm seeing a lot of my fellow Nigerians here, and half of them I don't know. They are not people in my office, they are not people in my church, they are not people I know. And it is just because somebody has felt it is beautiful enough to invite another person. And that is what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about United Nations or One World. No, this is purely professional, where we work together to bring professionals to meeting rooms to discuss future events, to discuss cybersecurity trends and everything. So the first of these events is AI. Over the course of next year, 2025, we'll be doing things around payments, We're doing things around cybersecurity. We're doing things around business and innovation and other things. Before I drop the mic, you'll be hearing me talk a lot during this event because I'll be reading out the profiles of the speakers. I want to acknowledge a few people that I see. If I did not acknowledge you, I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't see you. But I see Michelle Raymond, one of my very good friends. We met at a conference and we've been working together. Kanish is a referral of another friend. Welcome, Kanish, is our first speaker. I see Nana. We call him Dr. Machine Learning. Nana, happy to see you here. And I see a lot of other people whose names I will not mention, which I may mention at the end of the event. But everyone, thank you for coming. I'm excited. This is the first of great things to happen. And I'm super excited to connect with all of you, and I'm happy to talk to you well after the event, and we can have a wonderful time. I hope this is the best of events for you, and I'm looking forward to receive your feedback. If you look at the messages we sent you earlier on, there is a message that shows you a page where you can see the event agenda. Did anybody get that message where you can see the event agenda? And then if you also want to, I can also drop the link in the window here. If you also want to get the replay, all those informations are there. I'm going to drop them for you. And also, if you want to see the agenda, what's coming up, what's next, it's also in one page. So I'll drop it in the link here. And over to you, Yemi.
Thank you so much, Tosin. I really appreciate you for that overview of what is, why we are doing this. And without taking much of our time, we just dive into why we are here. And I think first on the bill is we'll be having a conversation around cybersecurity challenges in an AI world. I was at a conference sometimes during the week, and there was this conversation that went on around cybersecurity and AI. It's like, if there is no AI, there's no cybersecurity, or if there's no cybersecurity, there's no AI, right? But we have Akashnik Gaur, who is here to help demystify this, to help give us insights and also walk us through cybersecurity challenges in an AI world. So without taking much of our time, let's please make welcome Akashnik Gaur, right? What? Kanish. Okay.
Yes.
So Kanish will be joining us, and please let's all make welcome Kanish. Let me see your emojis, let me see your claps, let me see your high fives, let me see everything popping up on your screen or in the chat room. As that is going on, Tosin, would you want to read his profile? Afterwards,
yes,
he just goes into the business of the day. So over to you, Tosin. Bye.
Okay, Kanish, we're taking about 5 minutes of your time, but please bear with us. This is quite necessary. So Kanish Gaur is a visionary leader and expert in cybersecurity, emerging technologies, and public policy. With a remarkable career spanning over a decade of impactful contributions across industries, government, and think tanks. As the founder of India Future Foundation, Kanish has established one of India's premier think tanks. Under his leadership, IFF conducts cutting-edge research on cybersecurity, defense, data protection, privacy, and emerging technology policies. He collaborates with governments, enterprises, and startups to drive transformative change in digital and internet policies. In addition to his work with IFF, Kanish is the CEO of Athenian Tech Limited, UK-based, where he oversees the company's mission to protect businesses from advanced cyber tech threats such as identity theft, ransomware, and cryptojacking. Previously, Kanish was managing director of technology consulting at Protiviti, where he spearheaded cybersecurity risk consulting and global delivery operations. As a director of cyber advisory services at Ernst & Young, he guided strategic cybersecurity initiatives for government and private enterprises across EMEA and India. Earlier in his career, he held leadership roles at Deloitte and also Ernst & Young. He is a trusted advisor to regulatory bodies such as CRT, NCIIPC, DOT, and METI, and as well as the National Security Council Secretariat on Cybersecurity and Diplomacy. He is a dedicated mentor and thought leader, and he has developed next-generation leadership teams, driven innovation in professional services using AI and machine learning, and authored influential reports on cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Analytics and AI Transformation Summit 2024, Mr. Kanish Gur. Thank you and welcome.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity, Tosin. Glad to be part of this conference. And before this conference, I was speaking at the House of Lords on cybersecurity, how cybersecurity is impacting the UK, and what the wider implication it has for the society. One of the key things that we are finding is that today cybersecurity is getting used for deepfakes. And the most recent has been a case where a deepfake was used to fraud $25.6 million from a leading financial services organization within Hong Kong. Now, what happened here was that the finance employee was lured into making payments to a third party company where the CFO of the company was made to be present, and there were employees of the companies, and he was made to believe that all these people are there to support onboarding a particular vendor. And for doing that, deep fakes were used. The CFO of the company wasn't there on the call. Actually, it was his voice and his video that was fabricated. And what happened was that the finance employee was convinced into transferring $25.6 million into another company's account. And once he made the payment, post after the call, when the employees of the organization contacted him, he learned that he had made a terrible mistake. So during Zoom calls, during Teams calls today, we are seeing a lot of virtual avatars being created, a lot of virtual fake identity being created using artificial intelligence, which is today one of the biggest issues. And cyber criminals are using artificial intelligence for creating deepfake videos, creating synthetic content, and also to impersonate large organizations' leaderships. So this is one case which has come to light, but there are multiple cases that are happening today. And it is not just within Hong Kong, it's happening in Africa, it's happening in United States of America, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Australia, and in India. So cybersecurity today is getting massively impacted because of AI-based risk coming from deepfake videos, misinformation, and fake news. Now, in terms of some of the statistics that we look at, the state-sponsored hacktivists, who are typically funded by governments, have begun to use artificial intelligence and machine learning. So has the cyber criminals uh, and the hacktivist gangs. We've seen increasing use of AI when it comes to writing exploits for ransomware attacks, for writing vulnerability exploits, for compromising web applications and mobile applications. India has been one country which has suffered massive losses when it comes to cybersecurity. With increasing use of AI over the last 1 year, India has seen 35% rise in cyber attacks only after Australia, and ransomware intake has doubled in India. Lockbit, one of the notable ransomware, was regularly targeting Indian organizations, leading to widespread threat operations and data thefts, and state-sponsored hacktivism, including those from China, Sudan, Indonesia, have attacked India's leadership during the G20. Now, if we try and understand who these cyber criminal gangs are, you have state-sponsored hacktivists who are funded by governments. Now, these are called advanced persistent threats. The reason they are called advanced persistent threats is because they have advanced sophistication and the infrastructure. They have persistent hacktivists who keep on trying various permutation and techniques. And today they have AI, which makes them very sophisticated. Then you have the organized criminal gangs who attack organizations for defrauding credit card, for intellectual theft, for manipulating customers' information, to industrial espionage, to helping their competitors steal the intellectual property and gain competitive advantage. And then you have got corporate espionage, which is conducted by some of the ex-employees. And then you have the sophisticated hackers, like you have hacktivist groups such as Anonymous, shiny hunters which operate. And then you have script kiddies who today are using AI tools like WormGPT, DarkGPT, and are hacking into systems. Now, if you look at the major cyber attacks which are using AI, it's ransomware, the supply chain attacks, the intellectual property theft, phishing and social engineering and DDoS attacks. Everywhere we are seeing increased use of artificial intelligence by the threat actors, which I mentioned in my last slide. And this will continue to grow. Now, if you look at the ransomware, what a ransomware will typically encrypt files of a company or a system and it will not allow them to access and then ask money to be paid in form of bounty through bitcoins. And you would see that for initial access of systems, increasingly AI-based exploitation and AI-based tools are being used today. So the initial access, the delivery and exploitation, and right to deploying the command and control server to doing data exfiltration, you would see increased use of AI by cyber threat actors. So the ransomware lifecycle today is seeing a big use of AI and machine learning to cause data theft, to cause public to lose large amount of data, and even to do DDoS, distributed denial of services. So it's becoming more targeted, more sophisticated. Now, in terms of some of the scams which we are seeing, erstwhile these scams used to be done by humans, but today you would see a lot of cryptocurrency-based scams, phishing scams, love scams, OTP-based scams being done using a network of botnets. So instead of people chatting and luring, you would see a network of botnets which is established using artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then people being made to fall scam. And this is only going to increase further. So instead of people trying to social engineer, you will see more machine learning bot-based systems, more AI-based assistants being trained to scam people. So tomorrow, the humanity is going to be threatened by increasing use of AI. Hence, it's really important that we build out mechanisms for taking more ways to have responsible AI. Now, these are some of the emerging AI-based cyber attacks. You would see WormGPT, Evil GPT, Fraud GPT, Chaos GPT being revolutionized using for cyber attacks. You would see hackers customize these GPT models to automate various attack phases, from reconnaissance to executing sophisticated threats. These tools enable high efficient scalable attack across multiple targets. Then you would see adaptive malware, which use AI and reinforce machine learning algorithms, and malwares are designed to adapt to real-time model. And it's very difficult to detect some of these. And you would see AI-powered social engineering, where hackers use AI to analyze large data sets on users, studying their behavior using AI, and then using preferential learning models to craft specifically highly personalized phishing attacks, which are there. And we would see that these AI generated messages significantly have increased success rate in deceiving recipients and spreading malware. And we will also see AI based evasion techniques, where AI used to create evasion methods to bypass conventional cybersecurity defenses like firewalls, intrusion detection systems. You would also see polymorphic malwares being spread and automated vulnerability exploitations. So these are some of the increased use cases where AI is used for cyber criminal activity and cyber offensive activity by threat actors. If you look at today, another key risk is posed by AI to society by creation of deepfakes, amplification of fake news, undermining the trust which people have on digital systems, and specifically targeting individuals and groups and manipulating public opinion and basically polarizing the society. So today you have got multiple tools which are available in AI-based platforms which can be used to create fake news and spread that fake news through a network of botnets, and even spread it on social media on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And this is as per the Stanford AI Index report. Today, for political manipulation, interference in elections, we would see deepfakes being created and impacting large elections happening across Africa. A lot of countries are becoming victim of this. You would also hear about counter cloud demonstrate projects which are used to create and disseminate fake content. So this is one of the big risks which we see how AI could impact the society. Another aspect we see is AI is increasingly becoming a global driver for global power shifts. The world is today trying to use AI the same way it was used erstwhile for nuclear power. So today, AI is the new nuclear power, and there's a conflict between large superpowers like US, China, EU, and Russia on who could control AI or who could create maximum disruption using AI. Hence, you would see more international alliances being created, more power distribution getting impacted, and AI increasingly being used for espionage and cyber warfare. Hence, sophisticated intelligence today is driven through a network of artificial intelligence. Now, what is the impact? The AI is going to have a massive impact on the global economy. One, AI is going to create more jobs and it will boost the GDP of different countries. It will impact critical sectors, but at the same time, it has the risk of eliminating the humanity. So it has both positive and negative sides based on how we decide to use artificial intelligence. Uh, Now, if you look at AI challenges, one is the adversarial attacks, the bias which it has, the data privacy concerns, and the model misuse. Now, these are key challenges that we need to fight. Hence, it's important to build AI which is more ethical, which can build more transparency, accountability, is more responsible, and has a method for bias mitigation and for preserving privacy of citizens so that AI is not used for surveillance. Hence, what is required today is industry-specific frameworks, cybersecurity tools which can stop AI-based attacks, and resources to safeguard the humans from various cyber attacks which are coming forward and are only going to increase further. Uh, I'll take as a pause here for any sort of questions. That's all from my end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kashnik, for that. And please, if there's anyone who has questions, please, you can signify by raising up your hands, or you just drop your questions in the chat room. But very insightful conversation there, Kashnik. One thing that you had made mention that really caught my attention, that is AI is the new nuclear power. And it's for us to believe that, because everything currently happening globally, there is an AI effect to it. Thanks for sharing the fact that cybersecurity is hinged on deep fakes in terms of creating video content without the true person's identity, right? You had also mentioned things around the entire the rising threats of of cyber crimes or cybersecurity, things are right, crypto scams, love scams, OTP scams, trading scams. In fact, everything currently has a scam. And this is being enabled by AI in today's world. So there's so many things that you have said, but one that really caught my attention is the fact that the AI adoption market is going to grow from 359 billion to about 438 billion in the next, say, 6 years by 2030. And while we look at the growth of AI, it also tells you the huge threat that exists, because there will be new areas, new genres, new industries that AI will be leveraged. While we look at that growth, we should also look at the threat that it potentially holds. So thank you so much, Kashnik, for your thoughts. Thank you so much for helping us to start the summit for 2024, which has been very insightful. Having said that, if there are questions, please, we would appreciate it if you could signify by raising up your hands, or if you could drop your question in the chat room. While we wait for the first person to take an action, I would really appreciate, Kashnik, if you could help out around the conversation around, I don't know if this fits in, but just for me to just check in with you, there is that whole conversation around explainable AI, right? That whole thing that, okay, what is that whole, gamut, that whole conversation around explainable AI, and how does it connect with, cybercrime or cybersecurity in an AI space? I would like your thoughts on that. Once you answer, I will take other questions coming from the group.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, explainable AI is a set of methods and techniques that help people understand the reasoning behind the output of machine learning. Now, what typically we see is that trust in AI model needs to be improved. We also need to have models which meet regulatory requirements. We've seen the EU AI Act, which has come out. We also see bias mitigation methods which are being developed, particularly to ensure that the AI is not biased to a specific community or to a specific race or religion. Hence, explainable AI is the future, so that it could basically ensure that the AI which is coming forward is more trustable, more open and transparent, right? And it could be used by masses. So AI can be more democratized. That's the future that we are looking at. Particularly, you would see explainable AI have great applications in healthcare space, in finance space, in military space, in autonomous vehicle space. So those are four cases where we are seeing increasing use of explainable AI, but we still need to have more evolved models on this to ensure that you have control and you have methods to measure that AI is not becoming out of control. So that's one of the key things that we need to work on.
Thank you so much, Kashnik. So there is a question in the chat room from Nana, and his question goes thus: are there intentional efforts by the good players in AI to fight this and misinformation? So is there a deliberate effort by the good players, and the good players, maybe the big tech companies, to fight this and misinformation? Over to you, Kashnik.
So some of the players are trying to have methods by design that if you try and create something which is evil or which could be used for manipulating content or which could be used for spreading bias, then the AI based toolset will not allow you to create that content, right? So if you write some of the content, it will not allow you to get an outcome. But still there are methods through which you can evade it, saying, okay, I'm not going to do it, but can you tell me a specific case or give me an example? Hence, this needs to build up further. Secondly, we also need to have better fact-checking tools. I see a big lack of fact-checking tools, specifically with big tech platforms like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, because a lot of the content that comes in form of fake news and misinformation is not originated from these platforms, but from third parties, and then is put out here. Hence, how the big tech platforms are going to collaborate to ensure there is greater transparency and better fact-checking mechanisms which are built in by design. Somebody is trying to upload fake news or misinformation and it doesn't go live. I don't think so that much amount of effort is being made by these platforms. They have made some effort, but still there is a long way to go.
Thank you so much for that response, and it will be good to hear or even just thumbs up from Nana if your question was duly responded to. So looking forward to seeing if justice was done to your question. We still have some few more minutes, so if there's anyone who has an additional question, feel free to signify. It would be nice to get somebody who would speak live here so that we get responses. Thank you so much, Nana. Your question duly responded to. So thank you for that. Is there any other question? Any other person with a question? Okay, so I see another question come through I think you can see this as well. Let me see if I can erase this. Yes, this is coming from Tunde Ajayi as well. And he goes thus his question. He says, how can organizations, and he's specific in a finance-led organization, align AI transformation with business goals for measurable impact? So he has two questions. Then what could be the challenges in driving successful analysis and AI? So Tunde Ajayi is more specific in a finance organization. How does AI transform, drive this whole transformation with the business goals for measurable impact? And what could be the challenges in driving a successful analysis and AI?
Thank you for that question. So I think one of the key things is that today AI is being made the center point for everything, whether it is organizations development, whether it is for digital transformation, whether it is for getting more efficiency. Hence, to have AI transform with business goals, it's very important that the organization's strategy is clearly laid out before you bring out AI. A lot of times, the strategy of the organizations comes out at a later stage, but the strategy of the organizations should be human driven first, which is very, very important. The second is the organization must understand its current capabilities, right? And look at what are some of the qualitative parameters it has, what is the availability of information and accessibility of data. Then only you should look at ensuring you have AI deployed across the organization and have use cases defined. Otherwise, what happens is you will get a Bain, BCG, or a McKinsey, which is going to come and give you a fantastic strategy, or a Big Four consulting firm. But when you talk about deploying those use cases, whether it is for HR, whether it is for finance, those will not work. Even things like chatbots will not give you the results which you are looking at. Hence, you must have your current capabilities assessed and clearly defined. Then, accordingly, build out use cases. And in those use cases, you need to prioritize what is my top priority. Is having better customer experience my top priority? Or ensuring that I have large access to credit my top priority, right? That's there. And then fostering a culture of cross-functional collaboration. When you're trying to bring AI, have people from technology, finance, risk, compliance, business administration, human resource working together, not just have IT people or not just have finance people, which is very important. And lastly, when you do the implementation, do one pilot of AI project, implement it end to end, test its feasibility, try to see what is the return of investments which you get, and then gradually scale. So follow the hub and spoke model. Build a one use case, try and see what you can, expand further, and then focus on upskilling your workforce. Who are the people who should be AI supported and not AI leading them, AI supported, AI literate, AI assisted, and then build out monitoring and continuous matrix driven methods to track performance. That's going to be very important. Last but not the least, have governance for AI also defined so that AI doesn't mislead you. Hence, your method for deploying AI should be data driven, based on your current capability, and should be able to tackle the cultural resistance within the organization. There will always be a set of people who will not be very open and be resistant from using AI. The organization should not let at firing those people. Ethics, transparency, usability is going to play a very, very important role. But you also need to have some of these people aligned so they can continue to work and then help you build out scalable operations, grow them, and also look at how do you take care of the talent gap and continue to measure the return on investment on AI following the hub and spoke model.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much on that. And Tunde just responded fantastic for, that walkthrough. While we wait for more questions, I have been always, asking myself this, like, okay, I've been yearning to ask this question, and this has to do with deep fakes, right? And maybe I'll throw this question to you here, is to say, if you were to identify a deepfake video, what were those things, or what are those things that you would look out for to say, you know what, this particular video that I'm seeing is a deepfake? So if I'll just say, give me a deepfake identification 101 masterclass, what are those things I need to check out for?
So one of the key things in deepfake videos is that there is distortion. So typically you would see that there is pixelation, there is blurring, and there is unnatural texture creation around the face. If you look at the lip movement, particularly the eyes, the mouth, you would see distortion. Deepfakes would exhibit unusual lighting mismatches, shadow inconsistencies. You would, if you look at deepfakes frame by frame, you would see abnormal transition. You would see uh, abrupt missing details, jittering facial movements. Typically, you would also see audio inconsistency. So one of the key things to look at in deepfakes is the lip syncing accuracy is not that great, because a specific audio is put forward on a video to create a deepfake. So lip syncing doesn't happen that great. Hence, you people who are on deepfake often struggle aligning the lip movements perfectly with the speech. If you pay good attention, you will also see that the quality of the audio is not that great. Synthetic voices often sound robotic or lack natural intonation. So these are some of the key things. And if you have, tools, you could actually put some of these videos in a tool and they can detect and tell you. So if you look at monitoring the blinking patterns of eyes, rate at which blinking is happening, irregular facial expressions, the micro expressions, the unnatural head movement, you will be able to detect whether it is a deep fake or it is actual person who is talking. Hence, typically, these are some early methods. Otherwise, you can do metadata analysis. You could put some of these tools, some of these deepfakes in a video, and the metadata analysis will help you analyze whether any kind of compression patterns are applied or the deepfake file has undergone any kind of heavy processing of the image. So these are some of the methods which could be used manually, or you can put them in certain deepfake detection tools as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And I think I like the part around the lip syncing, and that distorted facial expression that you have mentioned. And when people normally send some kind of videos and I see it, I just say, no, this is a deep fake. And they say, so how do I know? And probably the reason why I asked that question is just for you to help me out, because the next time that I get those questions, I already know the answers to give them. So thank you so much for that.
One part, I will also give you some of the tools. So for video analysis, you would see that Adobe has developed a Premiere Pro for doing video analysis. You have a DaVinci Resolve tool, which has been created to look at the video frame by frame to scrutinize it further. You can also use, TinEye or Google Lens to look at the reverse image search. So these are particularly popular ones. There are certain forensic tools as well, something called as TrueEpic, which is used right now, and you have something called as Face Forensics Plus. These are today used for deepfake detections. Last but not the least is another blockchain-based tool which is becoming popular is Amber Authenticate, which uses blockchain to validate the original source of the video content.
Thank you so much. Thank you much, Kanishik. That has been very insightful. While we wait for additional questions, because we have about 4 minutes more before the next session, it would also be good, okay. Before I would say, it would also be good if I know that you have already shared your email address, but it would be nice to also share your LinkedIn profile as well for people to follow you. And if there are additional questions that they would want to get, or even just follow you to get insights and from your thought leadership standpoint perspective around what they need to do part-time in terms of things around cybersecurity and AI. So we would appreciate if you could also drop your LinkedIn link there. There is one more question from Wahab Jalil. He says, what's the difference between AI and ChatGPT?
Sure. So let me answer this question. So AI is obviously the broader field within computer science, which is used for creating tasks which can match up to human intelligence, which will include learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception, and language understanding. So in AI, you would see applications like machine learning, natural language processing, NLP, computer visions, robotics, right? So that's the broader AI that we have. Examples, Tesla is a perfect example of self-driving cars where AI is being used for autopilot. Virtual assistants, you would see Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant that are there. And then in AI is used particularly in robotics, uh, right? In healthcare, you would see operations, surgery being conducted using AI. And you would see AI being used for financial learning models as well. Whereas ChatGPT is specifically a AI developed model, right? Where you would see generative pre-trained transformer being used. A typical AI model focused on natural language processing, NLP. The purpose is that it is specifically designed for generating human-like text and imagery response. That's typically the purpose for which ChatGPT is, and where it is getting used today, specifically in helping you generate content, helping you create chatbots, helping you write email stories, also help people who do coding write code, help you with language-based translation, right? But like other applications, it has certain limitations. It it's subjected to hallucination. It has biases, right? It can be very text-based. It does not work on solving real-world problems or having a perception which is real world, right? So it can be misled. It could be used for hallucination. It could be also used for creating content, which could be not creating the kind of output. So that's one broad difference we see typically. So AI is larger, broad. ChatGPT is just one application within AI.
And I like the way you put it. So see it from some of us who did statistics and, we did sets. We will say that AI is your universal, right? And ChatGPT is your subset. Right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kanishik. I think we have 1 minute more, and I think for everybody who had listened to your session, can we all give Kanishik a round of applause? Show him love. It's been a fantastic session. It's been a very insightful one. And if you want to hear more, or if you want to follow him, obviously he has dropped in his LinkedIn profile link there for you to join him and, for further conversation, or even if you have questions that you may want to ask him after now, that would be a good time to reach out to him. I wouldn't just follow him to just be part of his followership base and stuff. And he has also shared his Twitter X handle as well. So thank you so much, Kanishik, for starting or kicking off our summit for 2024. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to other times you joining us for other conversation. We really appreciate you, and thank you for your time this day. Thank you so much, Kanishik. Yeah,
Thank you for this
yeah.
opportunity. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out or connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter.
Fantastical. All right. So thank you so much, Kanishik. That has been great. Moving on, we have a fireside chat, and this will be on AI policies, regulations, and global impact. We already have Tanya in the room, and let's just jump into it quickly because of our time. So Tosi, let me call you up at this point in time to read Tanya's profile.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much, Kanishk. And I must say that to everyone that Kanishk, Tanya are currently joining us from India, and it's about 9:30 p.m. in India. So they are making a huge sacrifice to be at this event. So the good thing about this event is that we're having people from two poles of the world talking tonight. We have people from India. India is in the Far East. And then we have people from the United States. The United States is in the Far West. So between India and the United States, my mark is going to come up in a few hours' time. It's about 14 hours in between them. So it's currently 7:52 a.m. in Seattle or Bellevue, where Mark is sitting, and it's currently about 9:30 to 10 p.m., where Tanya and Kanish are sitting. So, but all the speakers we have tonight are making massive sacrifices. Tanya is way past your bedtime. You shouldn't be caught walking outside at this time. Same with Kanishk. And Michael Glaros, who is somewhere in the room also, it's still bedtime. You should still be in bed by this time. So it's a huge contrast that we have tonight, and it's a huge sacrifice. I'm very grateful to both of you. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's take Tanya's profile. Tanya Singh. Tanya is an experienced leader with a prowess for simplifying complex problems for the Fortune 500 global C-suite. As a natural athlete, debater, and dancer for the first 20 years of her life, she got herself into the Limca Book of Records as a 12-year-old for setting India's first broadcasting station at the Ryan International Group of Schools, and contributed significantly to the Model United Nations in India and Washington, D.C. as a young delegate. She went on to raise multiple billions of dollars for consumers and SaaS startups and brands, and help shape society in her capacity. She has over 14 years experience of work, and she's a lady of many firsts. She introduced India's EODB framework with the National Single Window Clearance System, and also she was one of the first people to start Coca-Cola's Support My School program, a CSR program by Coca-Cola. She was also part of India's first sexual health clinic for women, and also part of the setting up of India's first foreign direct investment from Latin America in 10 years. She was also India's first woman recruit to the president's office as Reliance Technologies. Reliance is one of India's biggest organizations, and she facilitated Paris Agreement transitions in India's largest retail conglomerate. I think that's also at Reliance. She also worked in India's first used car marketplace, and also was part of India's Music Design Festival and a lot of SaaS organizations, helping them, the first SaaS organization in India, to be listed on NASDAQ. She worked with Australia's first public response system, and also set up the marketing stint with a niche geopolitical consulting company, which is Eurasia Global. She spent 5 years working at a consulting firm, working on advisory projects for growth, customer experience, and global government grant capture for American technology firms, grossing profit and loss targets of about $400 million to $23 billion. She was recently published as a voice in regulatory affairs for artificial intelligence in Asia, a paper which is on sale in the store for a token. And she was also working with Yuval Noah Harari, the author of Sapiens, at the Aspen Institute to publish that paper. She has served as a coach and brand ambassador for the Holt Prize for 4 years, with teams from Yale University and National Taiwan University winning the $1 million USD grant for SDG-aligned innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight with me, Tanya Singh, as we have a fireside chat on AI regulations, AI policies, and how they affect you. Can we please recognize Tanya with her emojis and everything? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tosin. I realized as you went through that I need a shorter introduction, which finishes in 2 sentences. I got bored.
That's true, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Welcome, everyone. And Tanya, how are you today?
Very well, and very grateful to be here with you, Tosin, and the rest of the room.
Great. What city in India are you coming to us today from? Is it Delhi? Is it Hyderabad? Or where are you?
I'm in Delhi. It started getting very chilly here. But yes, very much in the capital region.
Good. How cold is Delhi tonight?
Oh, I haven't checked. Quite cold. I mean, 3 layers cold is what I can tell.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's some levels of cold. Okay. Welcome. So come tell us about yourself and the work you did in Eurasia and how you helped organizations with the global policies and things around technology. Can you just give us that in about 30 seconds?
Well, 30 seconds, that's tough after that introduction, but I'll try. So, roughly 10 years in technology, mostly software as a service, devices, and network and services. And then Eurasia Group was more about expanding their geopolitical macro consulting services in India. And that pertains to Fortune 100 companies mostly because they deal with the geopolitical shocks globally based on their value chains and supply chains being distributed.
Beautiful. Now, would you be kind to tell us how AI is impacting businesses, how AI is impacting economies and countries, and what are we seeing today? What are the trends we are seeing today?
So, we have about 7 billion people who use the internet globally, right? And the world hence generates about 2.45 quintillion is the word bytes of data each day. In the last 2 years itself, an estimated 90% of the world's data was generated. And the world's data storage capacity is about 295 exabytes, which is a larger measurement system, which is approximately 295 billion gigabytes. Now, the reason why we have to discuss AI so much and how it impacts daily life, businesses, governments, is because A, it doesn't operate on physical borders. And the use cases, so there's deep tech as a larger umbrella. And within deep tech, you have artificial intelligence, you have autonomous robots, you have quantum computing, and you also have, so apart from quantum computing, then you have one more section, and AI is part of that. Now, AI could be used in e-commerce, and a lot of it operates on data. The idea of AI is to be able to not clone but replicate analysis in terms of human intelligence. So are you able to do deductive reasoning? Are you able to put some analysis into insight? So those are some of the use cases of AI, and across industries as well, both for businesses and governments. You could use it for leveraging citizen data, and you could make patterns out of it. These patterns can then, be deployed to sort of hire people, or these patterns can be used in healthcare assessments. And that's where the expanse of the current artificial intelligence framework is. The other usage is in media and is in what we use when we use chat gpt and openai systems, which is a smaller component, but then it also is helping with the collection and interaction with human beings. It is learning about us. So the future of some of these industries like e-commerce, if I can give you an example, is tomorrow you step out in the morning and Starbucks brings your coffee. It knows intelligently what you need in the morning at 9 a.m. You step out into your autonomous driving vehicle, you get to office, and there your smartwatch tells you what your heart rate is. You get into office and you interact with all these people, and you have virtual assistants as coaches, virtual assistants as secretaries, virtual assistants as some of the teammates as well. And I'm not talking industrial grade usage, I'm just talking about our daily lives. And then you use a lot of the technology and the learning models to sort of assist your work and make it faster. And you come back and you sort of repeat the autonomous nature of how the intelligence is helping you here. So that's where we are in terms of governments, businesses, and citizens from the expanse of how it impacts our daily life.
Thank you. And do we see this changing, or do we see this improving, or are we going to see more of this?
So I want to give you the example of UAE or Dubai, and you stay very close to that region, Tosin, and I'm sure you're aware. Um, Essentially, the rate of progression of a region like that is that they've already introduced courses and learning courses for each citizen, which can be accessed online. They have a curriculum for school children. And if you look at just as simple as their visa processes or their immigration processes, they're one of the fastest in the world. So I think they're pretty much leading the race apart from US and China. China, of course, is producing cheaper technology. I mean, BYD has pretty much beaten Tesla to the race. Yet, US controls the dominance because most of the data centers from the early days are housed there. So it's also about the storage and usage of the data and where the intelligence is being deployed or consumed.
Got you. Got you. Now, so how is this now impacting me in my office? So, for example, everybody thinks ChatGPT is all to AI, but like Kanik mentioned now, ChatGPT is just one case study or one AI scenario. You mentioned autonomous driving cars. You mentioned my watch that already knows how I live, how I sleep, and all those kind of things. Do you care to just tell us if you used cases of AI that we see every day that we may not be aware of? Because today, some people think everything automation is AI, but that's not true. So, do you care to tell us some use cases of what we can know to say, oh, this is not normal, this is not natural, this is not an if then else in a software program. This is actually intelligence at work.
Yes, in our daily lives, I think most of us have a listening device or something called a voice assistant, either that's Siri or Alexa. And I can say this safely, most of us would be using some of these voice assistants, whether it's for simple tasks like, picking our favorite music, to using recommendation engines in, apps like Spotify and food ordering apps, to then going and choosing e-commerce, in terms of our customer demands. If we all go on Amazon to order stuff, we can kind of think about the kind of content that we are pushed on every day depending on our previous searches. So that's daily life. Then chatbots, right? Most of us in technology companies are encountering chatbots while booking flights on Air India today, for example, which is the nationalized airline of this country. You have completely chat and email systems. There are assistants. There are no more, customer service executives on the other line on the phone. That is probably the last respondent sort of process for the citizens. So there are so many other little things that we notice that AI has kind of seeped into. Of course, we don't really get to see the industrial grade automation. And in India, for example, we have EV, but autonomous vehicles are not as sort of infrastructure widespread as in the US and maybe even Dubai from a test case perspective. So that is what we see in this part of the world.
Great. And now let's go talk about policy and regulation. Recently, one of the reviews that I did a review on the EU regulation. I think that's the biggest. And shortly after that, China released hers, Australia released theirs, Nigeria and the African Union also released theirs. I know the US has released via NIST, has released the standard for AI. I think that's like 4001 or something of the sort. And then we have a lot of AI governance stuff going on. Now, what are the implications of these regulations? So, for example, let's take the EU regulation, which is quite central to the world that we know today. If I'm living in the Middle East, you are living in India, Michael or Professor Doherty, who is up next, is living in the United States. And then, like many of the participants who are on this call, they are living in Nigeria. How does the EU regulation affect those guys, or how does it affect a bank in Nigeria, or how does it affect a bank in the United States?
Yes, I'm checking if I'm not on mute. Thank you. That's a very fair question. So, I want to set the premise for maybe answering this question, or, excuse me, the way to think about this. So, security earlier was about land boundaries or air or water. And now there are two more additions to this. One is space, and the other is cyberspace. And digital technology, by its nature, by way of how it's developed amongst the tech crowd as well, is not restricted by physical borders. So it's not just a two-way race between the US and China today, the United Kingdom, like you rightly mentioned, EU regulations, Canada, France, Singapore, India, South Korea, and Israel have become prominent AI players. Now, these countries are probably called middle powers, hence they have some role to play. However, the concerns in the global race are related to, again, the value chain, like I've been previously mentioning, right? One is storage of data. The second is infrastructure for computing. The third is cloud. Then we have chips and semiconductors. We have materials and energy consumption. We have manufacturing and processing capability. As an example, while 50% of the world's nickel, for example, and 50% of the world's lithium belong to Australia and Indonesia today, here in this side of the world, China is the country that processes 90% of these world critical materials. Now, from a value chain perspective, if some country was to become a semiconductor hub, they have to keep an account what's happening both with material availability, and then how are the regulations in terms of trade shaping up in both those countries that they want the resources from. Similarly, digitalization of key public infrastructure, and this is more from a domestic perspective, like power grids, water supply networks, transportation, that leaves significant risks of cybersecurity by adversaries looking to gain control of these materials. The US, for example, right now, from a regulation perspective, is considering a bipartisan approach. What they want, however, for them, the priorities are use of AI in healthcare, essentially. And Romania, for example, which is a semiconductor hub in Europe, has tilted more towards the Western European states than Russia right now. So then there is a problem there as well. There is South Korea and Taiwan. They're home to advanced semiconductor manufacturers like TMC, Samsung, etc., but they have a challenge of maintaining trade relationships with certain countries like China, etc., while protecting their economic interests. So those are where the premises of such regulations are. Unfortunately, to get to innovation in artificial intelligence, specifically in the Asian African subcontinent, it is important not to regulate. The word we're using here is governance. And why governance is important, the way governance has to be also shaped, and I'm going to be quick about this one, is to think about accountability at the level of the developer, going forward to the platform that hosts the technology, going forward to the customer facing, UX of that particular technology when it comes to AI. And a simple example could be ChatGPT or a voice assistant, and then thinking about ramifications of how to solve if there are incidents. So that's typically how governance should move. It should not really be about anything else. And the second part of the governance is about financing. So there are a lot of governments who have come together with corporates to also initialize these skilling programs across their countries. And that's really all regulation needs. China has a very interesting example here. China's regulations are about artificial generative intelligence because that's the public service pretty much, and it's democratized. And their second regulation is about infrastructure and services. Similarly, EU regulation is about digital products and services as defined for both cloud and physical infrastructure. So I will pause there on that. I hope that sort of gives a little bit of a roundup of where is the regulation required.
Yeah, so that's very, very beautiful. So you've given us an overview. So living in Africa as a company or living in the United States, should I really be worried whenever an AI conversation or AI regulation comes up, especially if I don't live there? So for example, we have the data protection. If I live in Nigeria or I live in India, am I really concerned about GDPR? And now if there's an AI PR or AI regulation, does it affect?
Yes, of course. Like I answered in the previous segment that we were talking about, when Romania is the semiconductor hub for Western Europe, its proximity between or its choice between Russia and Western Europe determines where material flows. So, absolutely, one needs to be concerned. Your country's economic chances of being in this race and where they procure their bipartisan trade is how I call it, not necessarily multilateral forums, which are also important to move some of these things, has become very, very key. So it is for you and me, whether we are in the industry or we are out of the industry, our consumption and our growth and our economic deficits and our economic, opportunities all depend on where we build our foreign relations.
Here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, before I continue, I will just let the room have their way and ask questions. So if you have any questions, foreign policy, international relations. This is not technical stuff here. This is what are the regulations, what are the constitutional rights, what are the policies, and all those stuff that AI brings to play. So the floor is open to you, the room is open to you, and let's go. So who is going first? If you are in a quiet place, feel free to unmute yourself. You don't have to put on your video. Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. Okay. Nobody seems to have a question yet. Beautiful.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Oh, we do, we can. Dr. Nana,
Okay.
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very much. Your, your session has been very, very inspiring, I must say. I was part of a national AI strategy for Nigeria, and a whole lot of what you mentioned here about what is influencing regulation versus governance, and how um, the fact that different countries are well positioned based on the infrastructure they have versus the data they actually have well positioned in this AI race. And you also mentioned something about why um, prioritizing education and having curriculum for for AI. And all these comments how different countries and nations are getting themselves ready for this for the AI race. My question will be around from your own point of view, what you feel nations, especially in Africa, where we currently do not have the infrastructure, neither do we have the, the assets for the data standpoint, nor do we have the skills, curricula to cover it. How should our nation be positioning themselves, both from a governance standpoint, a strategy standpoint, and possibly positioning our in order to maximize either by leveraging what other nations have done or also protecting our own assets going forward and such a
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nana. Your voice wasn't too clear. So he's saying that he was part of the think tank that started the AI strategy for Nigeria. And though it's I think it's in the first or second draft. And what he's asking is to say, how should countries position themselves with respect to, especially third world countries, with respect to governance, policies, and what things should they put in place so that they would be able to play at the global level? Yes, the EU is doing something, that China is doing something, but what kind of roadmaps or what kind of strategy should third world countries deploy so that they are able to play at a global stage in the world of AI? Dr. Nana, did I echo your thoughts?
Yes, thank you.
Over to you,
Okay.
Tanya.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Nana, for that question. So regardless of whether we are a developed country or a developing nation, the framework of governance around AI or any regulatory landscape can be seen as three buckets primarily. You can't regulate the technology itself because that is important for access to everyone, and hence will, you know, cutting down access is going to curb innovation. So you must regulate use cases, right? Secondly, accountability, which I spoke about previously as well. Legal accountability for misuse and risk should be put on the players within that value chain. The third is foster an open international ecosystem. The whole point of grabbing innovation from different parts of the world and making it into your own with your own data centers is also a very strong possibility for most nations right now. And there is plenty of funding that governments across the world are putting towards it. And what I would also sort of highlight on is considering harms, potential harms of AI, which again is seamless across developed or developing nations. It has less to do with the um, penetration itself of technology and the rate of speed of development of AI. It has more to do with, again, I keep reiterating this, the use cases. So, one is AI's impact on government technology. So, social media and surveillance infrastructure. There needs to be some sort of checks and balances on who checks the government. Informational harms, deeper about recommendation engines, about deep fakes, about all of these things. So, some sort of training frameworks need to be put around how to put balance and checks around the some of the harmful impacts of AI's democratization. And then it's economic opportunity. When you have a technology that learns or functions from learning or existing data sets, the problem is that the societal inequality, it increases. So it deepens because there are biases that are continued into the system. So that also needs to be in check, and hence the use of AI must be restricted to certain use cases. In fact, in the US, when you train an AI model, whether you're becoming a prompt engineer or you are the one writing instructions for the AI model, it is specifically said from an ethics perspective that you must not train the AI model to behave like a human. So there are these checks and balances which you can adopt globally. And I think Africa needs to obviously have a more localized way of looking at it. So I'm not an expert on Nigeria. But now that you've raised the question, I should probably study deeper. I know Tosin and me had a discussion last year in Dubai about banking and some of the customer and operations use cases around AI. So that's my eyes and ears on Africa is pretty much Tosin.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have Tanya. You are on the hot seat tonight. You have 3 questions waiting for you. So Sundeep is asking if India should have an AI policy like China. Sundeep is also in Delhi, so maybe he's just next door to you. I'm not sure. But he's saying, should India have an AI policy like China?
So, Sandeep, thanks for the question. So, in India, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, METI, they have released an AI policy note, which probably serves as a framework to draft the AI policy. Having said that, the AI policy framework rests on a few other regulations. One is the Personal Data Protection Bill, or the Act. The other is, of course, acts around e-commerce frameworks and that ecosystem. And then there is also the national security policy. So all of these will play into how it shapes up eventually. Right now, there is a strategic framework that has been released. And whether like China or not, so India as an ecosystem or as a nation is much more different from China, which is quite homogeneous in its maybe following the law. India is quite diverse from that perspective. And I don't think a one size fits all is ever the way to go. We don't have the kind of computing power and data centers yet to be utilizing some of China's policy frameworks. Number two, our development or GDP contribution from technology and AI depends a lot on the GCCs that are in this country and also use the skilled labor and are setting up R&D centers and so on and so forth. So those will be the two determining factors over the next 10 years as to how India should be shaping its policy from a checks and balances perspective.
Hi, Tanya. I'm sorry, I just uh, misframed my question. It was when you mentioned the GAI aspect of China, I wanted to ask if India has a GAI policy in place or anything close to that with its current apparatus.
No, have you read the METI note on AI?
Uh, no, I haven't.
Okay, so this was released sometime around September to November last year, if I'm
Mm.
not mistaken, but do check it. But last year, sometime there was a note that we released on it, or I think it was January this year, right after the parliamentary session. So essentially, that just talks about data usage, data storage at this point. it is not very advanced because it's not required in India. Open source intelligence has sort of just started in terms of incumbents and giving some sort of a you know effect of growth, network growth, to Indian startups in that space. There were plenty of tools across the world already leveraging chatbots and simple recommendation engine technology. And then there is, of course, the cloning of voices, AI assistants, and so on and so forth. So at this point, we are not as advanced as China. So the current framework is good enough.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question from David, who says he believes AI's ultimate performance is built on data. And in a situation where that data capture is not properly done in the profession, is not properly done, what can we do in terms of educational awareness, professional awareness, and other opportunities, business or otherwise, in that space? You know, in many, many places, for example, you are asked to fill a form. You go to an office, they ask you to write your name, put your national ID. You go to the bank is collecting your number or everything 15 times. Somebody is organizing a social media event. Tosin is also guilty, but I won't sell your data. And they are collecting your data. Everybody wants you to register. Digital marketing is all about lead generation and all of that. So what should we be doing to ensure that these portions are taken?
So I think once governments have set down regulations, and I'm going to bring us to this answer in my perspective from a macro to micro perspective. On a daily basis, Tosin, I think who we share our data with and how many apps we download on our phones and how much we use the monitoring and data analysis features from a personal perspective is a very individual prerogative. And I've seen that happen, right? There's all sorts of monitors, smartwatches, Aura rings, and whatnot available specifically in health tech today, which can give you a real time update on your data sets. Now, similar to that is how much you expose yourself as a human being, whether it's inevitable or whether it can be sort of managed by yourself. I think the answer lies there in somewhere, unless, of course, there's a particular technology that's been pushed down our throats, which never happens. So I think there's some discretion in terms of that from a personal prerogative perspective. From the macro perspective, I think any system is impervious or pervious, I would say, not impervious, pervious to shocks, different kind of shocks, right? So security is a real threat, specifically when it comes to technology. But I think the ecosystems develop parallelly. For example, if there's a technology on the rise, there will be bad actors using it for multiple use cases also on the rise, and hence there will be also curative technology that grows, much like cybersecurity in today's time, right? Total economic potential of both artificial intelligence and cybersecurity is at par, just to point out some numbers. So that is where I think David's answer lies. David, are you happy with that answer?
Well, David will have to bear with you because Tanya, you're sitting on the hot seat. You have two more big questions. So from Michael, two Michaels on you. There's Michael Deramo and there's Michael Glarus. So they're asking, how do you handle regulatory compliance amongst tech players in the virtual world? So everybody's dropping an AI solution. We have the multiple Claude AI, Perplexity AI, ChatGPT, everything AI, and a lot of solutions are coming up that are location agnostic. What is a good base for regulatory compliance? ChatGPT is US based, Perplexity is from wherever, but everybody everywhere in the world is using them. So what should these SaaS companies, you are a SaaS expert, what should these SaaS companies be doing? Or what are your thoughts and your recommendations that SaaS companies should do to ensure that a company in Europe, Estonia, for example, that is owning AI, or Spotify, Estonia-based Spotify, using my data, and I'm in Nigeria or I'm in the Middle East, and even though they don't have to obey GDPR because I am not a European customer, what is meant to be in place for the Interpol, the AI Interpol? What is a recommendation for the AI Interpol?
I think at a platform and software level, typically what happens or ends up happening eventually is that most companies globally do look at GDPR as one of those solid frameworks that they can follow. The second piece that happens is that accountability happens by means of a consent form. So I'm not sure how many times you see your email and Google sends you these new regulations and new regulatory changes that are happening with its data policy. And I'm not sure how many of us read them, but it's not like companies are not being accountable and sending them to us. It's just a lot of information to consume for most of us mere mortals. And the other part, in terms of regulation that already exists both among big tech players and smaller incumbents, of course, which mature their systems as they grow bigger and bigger, if they don't die out in the first 5 years, is that with the privacy of data, it is a, well, um, I think every respectable brand that grows big enough already has an ethics and compliance or value framework within its entity build to ensure that it doesn't misuse any personal data. Now, personal data is very different from all other data that you may be providing technology. Personal data can be used to manipulate you or, to conduct acts of terrorism. However, public data, which is, a lot about how you interact with voice assistants, has lesser regulation enforcement around the same. So I think that's also where the difference lies in. Having said that, regulation has never been able to keep up with technology, anyways. So that's one of the ways the world works, and that's the inevitable reality of it. So um, I think as a human race, we always prepare for risk. And I can say this from a geopolitical risk standpoint, selling perspective last year at Eurasia Group. We often think of risk only when an incident happens. So we typically don't prepare for a risk to come at our door. Uh, how many of us, for example, have the 5 types of fire extinguishers in our home? How many of us think about consciousness on a daily basis, right? That's communication risk and energy exchange risk. How many of us think about our civic responsibilities and risk perceived from passing information from one place to another? So there are all of these things that come into play. They're quite complex, but I think the companies are quite responsible so far.
Okay, thank you. Michael Ramo, I guess that gives you some context. And Tanya, please spend time later on to drop your contact details in the chat window. Now we have a big question from Michael Glaris. Michael Glaris is based in Seattle and he's a speaker. He's asking, what is your perspective on skilling and talent development across the Global South? Now, the Global South has some of the largest populations in the world, but there seems to be a contrast between the amount of AI and tech development going on in those places relative to the vast amount of youth and human resources that they possess. Question number one, what's your perspective? Question number two, do you see governance regimes or incentives that are helping them to nurture and grow this talent base?
Yes, absolutely. So I did take the example of UAE earlier as a very sacrosanct model of understanding how they're preparing their citizens for the transition to AI. One, they have citizen training. B, they have, and it's a Middle Eastern country, right? It's not the Global South, technically speaking, but most of UAE's alliances are now shifting towards this side of the curve post the US-China disturbance. So essentially, they also have AI curriculum. Much like that, each government, specifically in the swing states that I was earlier mentioning, in Asia, those swing states particularly would be South Korea, would be Singapore, would be Japan, would be UAE, I think, as part of this region. And each of them has dedicated some sort of government budget or some part of budget in terms of $1,000 million plus in most of these countries to contribute to skilling and AI intelligence work. So that's where most governments are. And I think governments subsidize all of these trainings and skill set requirements. So which means that the adoption and the pragmatic embracement of AI across the Global South is quite rapidly progressing. I have an article that I've written. I can always pass that to sort of point out to specific numbers for the smaller countries as well. But yes. Tosin, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for staying up late past your bedtime to answer many questions. And I guess this is beautiful. We would not be able to take any more questions because we have to move to the next speaker. Tanya's mail is in the chat window. Tanya's LinkedIn Connect is also there. I hope you've not run out of LinkedIn connections. And Yemi, it's back to you.
Thanks, Tosin.
Thank you, Tanya. Nice to have you here.
All right. Thank you so much. That had been very insightful. Thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing all that you did. Very insightful session. And we really appreciate you. Please feel free. Okay, I know that there was a request for your email address. Thanks for also sharing your LinkedIn profile. Also, we look forward to, you had mentioned you also had this article that you have. If there is a link to that, you can also share it in the chat room so most of us can do some reading and getting more insights from it. So really appreciate you. Thank you for that. Having said, moving on to the next on our agenda today. And I think we have, a presentation on the impact of AI on education and higher learning. And we have Prof. Dopfar, if I get that well, from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, USA, who will be walking us through this particular presentation. But before he goes ahead in delivering this presentation, so this is Prof. Dote Dopfar. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Before you take on this particular session, I would now call on Tosin to read your profile. Then afterwards, you just jump in and take it forward from there. So thank you and welcome again. So Tosin, over to you.
Professor Dote Dopfar, Iranian, an epidemiologist and a microbiologist by training. Dote Dopfar is a professor in the Department of Medical Sciences, Food Animal Production Medicine section of the School of Veterinary Medicine in the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin, USA. She works on large data sets about infectious disease dynamics, food safety, and the emergence of antimicrobial resistance factors. In addition, lameness, particularly bovine digital dermatitis, prediction models for rare events, machine learning for One Health and farm animal production medicine, computer vision models, and disease surveillance are part of her research projects. She teaches applied epidemiology and artificial intelligence for DVMs and life scientists. She is a friend of mine that I met at MIT last summer, and I was really humbled to be in class with her, where a full academic professor humbled herself to come back to school to learn AI. So she is a vet doctor, fully qualified, tenured professor, comfortable with a job, and then came back all the way cross-country move to Cambridge, MIT, just to learn AI, paying about $4,000 extra just to learn from a colleague. That's humility, in my opinion. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight with me, Professor Dote Dopfar.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction and for this opportunity to share my thoughts about education in the healthcare sciences as they relate to artificial intelligence. I am a quiet, humbled person by nature, and this does not change by any privilege that I have to live in the upper half of this world, of this globe. Sir Tosin teases me about being a professor, and I tease him back and call him Sir Tosin. And we have a good smile about that. I think we are a global community of learners when it comes to artificial intelligence and these machine learning tools in a world that grows a lot of decentralized experts. And I want to give you a few examples about how I think artificial intelligence can enrich our lives. And I'm going to share my screen in order to be able to share my slides. So with this into presentation mode, I hope you can see my screen. If something gets into the way, let me know, and I will try to accommodate. I cannot see any chat messages while I'm presenting in full presentation mode. I hope my audio is working. So my name is Dörte Döpfer. By the dots on the O, you might suspect I'm German of origin, as my accent gives away as well. I moved to Madison, Wisconsin 16 years ago to work at the School of Veterinary Medicine here at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And the question I ask very often is, what is necessary to make a DVM, a doctor of veterinary medicine, or a life scientist in general, spend time with data and data analysis today? And many of the responses that I get from practicing veterinarians are, nobody is waiting to spend more time behind a desktop computer. And I think that the motto, one can teach a veterinarian or life scientist to do anything that is legal, fundable, and reasonable. I think that is so true, because we are very self-motivated healthcare specialists and interested people who are prone to focus and specialize in pattern recognition. So I truly believe what it takes to make, as an example, a DVM spend time with data analysis skills, among which are AI, is not even the fear of missing out. It is owning a problem that applies to their reality, and then spending the time to solve that problem with tools that can be enhanced, among other things, by AI. And I would love to show you examples about how we go about here at the School of Veterinary Medicine to teach veterinary students about AI. Okay, we're recording. Awesome. So I'm giving my introduction to this talk about educational aspects that lead to an enriched professional environment in healthcare as it applies to agriculture and animal health and well-being particularly. If you want to reach me, my email is right at the bottom of this slide, and I'm happy to engage in conversations. Let's see how this goes. If here we go. Okay, so you can teach a veterinarian, and please make this the proxy for a life scientist, a healthcare interested person to do anything, as long as you own the problem and you have the motivation to become what I call a critical consumer of this type of methodology. And this is, for me, part of this process of democratization of AI that I think we need and we owe to ourselves and to our next generations to come. So I believe that AI, machine learning, deep learning, they generate tools for pattern prediction, and that is at the heart of what healthcare interested people do. Teaching applied AI, machine learning, and deep learning. I do this in 2 didactic courses here at UW-Madison for our veterinary students and anybody grad student who would like to enroll. And I need to mention that we just finished recording and preparing this in an asynchronous way as well. So there's a 1-week module that would give you a thorough introduction to AI, machine learning, computer vision, large language models, like fine-tuning large language models, training models that are able to be integrated into cellular phone apps. It's a lot of fun. On the lower right, you see the image of a baby python, and this is not for bad luck or so. This mascot for our courses is called Pittypat. And Pittypat symbolizes how we meet any student who would like to enroll at their level of knowledge, at their level of engagement. And our veterinary students have no, no previous teaching or training. Most of them don't. for programming or coding, and they really dislike statistics given their experiences during undergrad courses. So these two fully immersive didactic courses of 2 weeks each, they're called Artificial Intelligence for Veterinary Medicine and Life Sciences, AIVM, and the second one is Applied Epidemiology. And the students are given a data set, be that images, be that data arrays, be that text. And they upfront, they tell me what they would like to work about, because owning your problem is part of the passion that you develop. And then I go out and start looking for those data sets, and I have a collection by now that I can make ready for students to work with. And then they come in every June, I teach AIVM. Every fall in September, I teach Applied Epi. And the participants come in and they will learn how to analyze these data and how to train their own models, how to report about them. And they leave the courses with an evaluation matrix that allows them to critically evaluate the quality of these models. I'm going to finish my talk later with a list of opportunities for health, production, welfare, One Health, and sustainability when it comes to agriculture and animal health and welfare, and the challenges for job descriptions, business models, and robustness of model implementation in the agricultural sector. So upfront, I want to clear a bit of terminology. Artificial intelligence embraces machine learning, embraces deep learning and the neural networks that are often applied. We focus here on the prediction models for these health outcomes in life sciences. And we need particular attention being paid to performance metrics. So we have to talk to a degree about quantitative methods and skills, and what is accuracy and what is sensitivity, specificity, and so forth. Not my students' favorite topic, but once they see it applied to a problem that they own and that they are motivated to work on, this becomes just another part of their toolbox. And we make this contradiction between prediction model and parameter estimation models. You're seeing that, or you're sensing that my talk is more of an applied kind. I'm not a governance person when it comes to education. I can just tell you what we are doing in order to fascinate our participants of these type of courses with the possibilities, with the opportunities that are out there for applying artificial intelligence in an ethical way. And I must say, there's this hesitation towards artificial intelligence. We are at a point in our world, on our globe, where it's up to us to apply artificial intelligence in a reasonable way, and that's part of the democratization of artificial intelligence. And so, the more people are able to critically evaluate these models, the better I think these standards for AI applications become. And that's what I stand for with my courses. So I give my participants this idea of, when you are talking about current possible cutting edge applications, it's this conversion between 2-dimensional into 3-dimensional computer vision. So if my friend sends me this image, and I can simply put it through a website like this one with a prompt, make a video for me, and that's what this website does, of a friendly cow walking towards the foreground, then this conversion happens right in front of my eyes. So this is the image, and suddenly this cow starts walking, and this was never intended by my friend. And I make my participants aware of, okay, what do you see? This is supposed to be a cow, but she does not have a mammary gland. Her feet look very weird. So it's a matter of getting involved, of being a critical consumer, knowing that if I write this prompt, then I have to do this actually repeatedly, make my image walk through this algorithm repeatedly until I get a video like this. Because the first time around, when I used the same prompt on the same website, the only thing that would happen is that this cow in the background was kind of moving her head. The second time when I submitted the prompt together with the image, then again, this very cow here started moving behind my foreground cow, and not moving very naturally. It's more in a staggered way. So these tools are not perfect. They are just tools, and it's necessary for us to be available and ready to criticize them in a reasonable way. And then you may not know this, but I'm specialized in a certain disease that causes ulcers at the skin-horn border in the bovine, in cattle's feet. And I submitted a prompt to ChatGPT saying, like, create an image of Mortellaro's disease or digital dermatitis, that's my specialty, in a cow. By the way, you're going to see a lot of cow images and cattle images in my presentation because I use these a lot. And then what ChatGPT was throwing back at me were these images that are really not typical. They look more like candy or rubber type of buttons on top of these cows' feet. And even repeatedly applying the same prompt did not result in anything that I would consider being characteristic or typical of these lesions. I will show you some lesions later. But this is to show us that these generic large language models and ChatGPT, including ChatGPT, they're not by far perfect when it comes to the output for specialized needs. And this is the call for healthcare specialists to engage in fine-tuning this type of applications. So in order to make them available and make them translatable into regions of the world where this type of information is needed, and this type of advice that may not be available at large scale. And then there's often the question, well, do we need instructors, human instructors, or could we just use these avatars like this Midjourney generated picture? And I can generate a voice clone applied to the lip-synced movements of this avatar and have this voice clone speak in 136 languages, including different dialects. And I don't need myself anymore to convey my contents, do I? I want to draw your attention to the fact that these applications are used to embed vectors. So these are sequences of signals. And then all these applications do, these models do, is predicting the next element of that sequence. And this applies to language as well. If you think about sentences that are sequences of words, words are embedded in or transformed into tokens. And then all these large language models do, based on a lot of data that they swallowed and were trained on, is predict the next token of a sentence. And this is reflected in this particular avatar that I can make and talk for a little while. It will start in German, so ignore the German, then it will go into English that we understand at this point, and then from English into French and back into German. And actually the clue is that when it makes that transition between languages, it keeps the accent of the previous language in the next language. So these things are by far not perfect. I might just skip the video itself, but just for your amusement, a little piece of it, right? So this is a Midjourney generated image that was 3D transformed and then joined together with a voice clone. And here she goes.
Wir besprechen den Fall eines Milchviehbetriebes mit 1000 Kühen, auf dem es unter den Erstkalbinnen während der Spätsommermonate zu merkbar verminderter Milchproduktion gekommen ist.
I'll speed this up a little bit.
Bitte nehmen Sie Folgendes zur Kenntnis.
So this is German with a French accent.
Ist ein KI-Clone. Das Bild wurde mit Hilfe von midjourney.com gemacht.
Okay, so you believe me, or believe me, please, that the next middle schooler will come home to their parents and say like, hey, mom, look what I did today. I created this three-dimensional avatar. I make it speak like Donald Duck, and it's telling you something in the voice of Albert Einstein. Yeah, so these things are not far away, and still the human instructor has an empathy, has a global knowledge of history and embedding information into modalities such as values and morals, ethics, aesthetics, economics, and correctness that these avatars still don't have. So I doubt whether today or in the very near future we would be substituting major numbers of instructors by avatars. That's my hypothesis. Whoops. So here's the Artificial Intelligence for Veterinary Medicine course. It's a 2-week full immersion course into applied artificial intelligence on veterinary health topics, but we've had human health topics just the same. We give them an introduction to machine learning, neural networks, prediction models, computer vision for image classification, object detection, segmentation, and natural language programming. We fine-tune LLMs. We use Python. That's where the little mascot comes from, Pitipat. We use characteristic libraries. So the students learn to apply these Python codes to their own problem, training their own models, evaluating their prediction performance, and then reporting about this. Part of this learning process, and I think education needs to focus on that, and we as a global population need to focus on that, is having the right words, the verbiage to critically evaluate and to report about artificial intelligence. This is a growing process. So reminding ourselves of, what did you say? Did I understand what you said in our respective languages and from our respective disciplines is super important. So artificial intelligence for veterinary medicine will be given again in June of next year. It's a full-time 2-week thing. We've had participants found startup companies after taking this course. We have someone who changed his career path. 2 of them changed their career paths from being a veterinary practitioner into becoming a member of the R&D, the research and development groups in huge corporately owned companies for AI. And it has been a very fruitful endeavor. So here you see some of the cell phone applications. Here you're looking at the mammary gland and the teat ends of a cow. And there are scores going on for the quality or the health of these teat ends. Here, looking at turtles, sea turtles with tumors. So many different realms of applications. They can learn how to extract data from cattle management programs, automatically clean them and edit them. And then without being a statistics specialist, in an interactive way, how to analyze them. This is the startup that was founded. We do this for small animal applications. We have portable devices here. This is a Jetson Xavier with a little screen applied to dairy cows. So many, many ideas. So what does the course contents look like? We give them an introduction about machine learning, computer vision, and natural language programming, processing, case studies. They learn Python applied in Google Colab notebooks. NumPy, Pandas, Scikit-learn, Keras, TensorFlow, PyTorch by now. They learn about deployment locally on portables, so edge devices, and in the cloud. We give them like a Flask server demonstration for deployment in the cloud. The students present their own data sets and model evaluations, their project development, using video presentations or live presentations. We have in-depth discussions together with guest experts in the field. And this 2 weeks course has been quite a success. As far as I know, this is the only course in North America that allows veterinary students and life scientist students to acquire this type of knowledge within 2 weeks or within their curriculum at all. So here you see my phone being pointed at the paw of a large dog, and dogs, they tend to have an inflammation of their paws depending on their allergy status. And this paper has been published with first authors being students, and they won a research award for student research in 2023, which is quite a high award, highly noted award. Then we read ear tags of cows. Here you see cows that are being milked in a milking carousel. And we have an ear tag reading model of 96+%. And the advantage is that we can read these ear tags from up to, 10 meters away. While the norm is that we use electronic readers of ear tags. And then you have to be within 15 centimeters of distance. And well, you can try to get close to a cow by 15 centimeters. That can, even by well-socialized cows, be a challenge. So here you see this application of a model to a cow's foot. Again, I'm specialized in lameness, infectious lameness, and there are lesions here at the back of a cow's foot. And the little box tells you which stage of this digital dermatitis disease is the same for my Android, and we have it for iPhone, also Apple iOS applications as well. So whenever this little box appears, something has been detected. We use standard security cameras in the back of the cow's feet. So to monitor for cattle health. If you want to read more about the ear tag model, then WACV 2024, that's when this was presented. And I'm humbly proud to tell you that this Monique Smink, that's my daughter. And she's currently studying AI in Delft in the Netherlands, and I'm going to be visiting her tomorrow. Here you see one of these lesions of digital dermatitis, and in conjunction with the timestamp of this detection with the ear tag reading, we are able to make lists for treatments for these cows. And you can say, well, if I have 10 cows, I don't need artificial intelligence to detect this. But if you have 9,000 cows, dairy cows, then yes, like here, this is a milking carousel that rotates. This is the back view where the cow is being milked. This is the barn, so it's like an airport hall. And yes, then artificial intelligence becomes a reasonable thing to detect disease in the feet. Like here you see this ulcer-like structure. Normally this would be all pink skin like this above. This is very painful, and cows go lame from this, which is a huge problem. We use drones and fly them through barns. So we tell our students about that, call this module Find My Cow. Producers are telling us, think now about cattle in pasture as well. Producers are telling us we can detect a lot of disease, but we have a very difficult time finding the cow. So the combination of a front-end camera in a drone with the ear tag reading is a powerful tool to have. But then we were warned drones in cow barns might be a problem because the cows might panic. Actually, the cows find this very amusing to have a drone flying above their heads as long as it moves slowly and doesn't stand still like a predator bird would do. It's the pigeons in the barns that hate these drones because pigeons are territorial. They will attack drones. And another technical problem is as soon as you fly a drone underneath a roof, the drone loses its GPS coordination, and that might result in technical failures. So the difference between what the human thinks is reasonable in application, a drone flying through a barn, but then the technical application and durability, the robustness of these tools, that's often a big limitation. If you want to read about our applications on edge devices, so portable devices, here are 2 papers of those. We use the segment anything model to draw masks, so shape-like areas that follow the shapes of cattle. Here we want to detect digital dermatitis and make prevalences of cattle affected by DD upon arrival in a slaughterhouse. The cowboys here, these pen riders, they are ready to wear cameras in any form. The first question I got was when I attached one of these cameras to the stirrups of one of these cowboys was, so is the thing going to vibrate when it sees disease? But I cannot use my mobile phone for this. I need my mobile phone for other applications. So we have to work with the end user. And this is a big message during education. Work with your end users of these applications, or your models are prone to disappear in some drawer, never be seen again in daylight. We work about sustainability. Here you are looking from the roof, from the roof of a cow pen, and we want to save water being dispensed in sprinklers. And sprinklers are used to cool cows in summertime. I must tell you, I'm calling you from Wisconsin. I just looked, we have minus 14 degrees Celsius here in winter. And in summertime, we have up to 40 degrees Celsius, which is still cool compared to some areas, particularly in the global south. But we know that if we apply these water sprinklers only to areas where there are cows present, versus not applying these sprinklers in areas where no cows are present, we would be able to save 75% of the water being dispensed to cool cows. And that is a big motivator for these systems. At the same time, MetaSAM applications for ultrasounds, and ultrasound is used a lot for reproductive purposes, for checking whether cows are pregnant or not. So this is coming up. We are checking whether cattle in feed yards are drinking or not. Again, that's a welfare issue. Under heat stress, cattle stop drinking or do not drink enough. So we have these models, and here you see a real-time application of detecting digital dermatitis. Whoops, if this will work well, it's a little slow. Anyways, wherever you see these yellow boxes popping up, this is where digital dermatitis is being detected in real time. I think you believe me. So now I'm going to pass to the next one. What does this mean in terms of the motivation of a professional, of a pro to do anything? I think we need not dumb it down for educational purpose. Like, we don't need these toddler-like cartoons to present our application. We start with something that our vet students know, like bar charts, where something is more prevalent than another thing, particularly in treatment and control groups. We visualized contents and connections using networks. And I think today teaching without mentioning engines like ChatGPT would not be complete, because it's a phenomenon of our time. And I can tell you that you can submit a list of variables about, for example, culling cattle and the reason the diseases associated with having to remove cattle from herds. You can submit that to ChatGPT, and yes, this will result in an output. You will get a written report with relative risks and odds ratios and regressions if you want. You will get visualization like these bar charts or like the networks. You can obtain a PowerPoint presentation about the contents. You can obtain the code. And I think we are going to be facing increasingly the amount of programming code, Python code, or whichever code you want to apply from ChatGPT engine like agents. And I still think that we have to be very critical consumers, because you have to be very cautious when it comes to outputs of these sources of information, because any data set currently that you submit to the generic ChatGPT type of engines will become public. I work a lot with dairy producer and beef cattle producer owned data, so I cannot afford to do that. So I have to fine tune my own large language models to make them run locally. That requires access to GPUs or similar structures, which are not equally distributed across the globe. I'm very aware of this, but having this expertise into coming from the common knowledge about a problem and then reaching into the sources for coding and evaluating the resulting models in a critical way, that's an expertise that we should teach to our students when it comes to applications of AI and machine learning. I have another course about applied epidemiology. About 10% of our students take the AIVM class and the applied epi course. Similar setup, 2 weeks, only this time we use R. And we actually analyze the data to become what is called a parameter estimation model. We quantify the association of a potential predictor and risk factor for a health outcome using a generalized linear mixed model approach, like a classical frequentistic approach to quantitative skills and data analysis. We have, the next one will be in September of 2025. We've worked with many different topics where students learn to analyze a real-world data set of their interest. We use R and applied statistics and EPI. We practice oral and written presentation skills, and I think this meets the needs for quantitative skills in healthcare workers, among which DVMs, meaning that we are exposed to data streams, and somebody has to make sense of that. And if we don't get involved, somebody else will do it. I think we should be involved in this. The healthcare interested community should be involved in this. And any practitioner today will increasingly be facing clients and patients that have been informed by AI-enhanced tools. And therefore, it's necessary to have our healthcare people informed about this. So we've been working about pesticides in bees, of course, digital dermatitis in dairies, eye conditions in cats, feral populations of horses and their reproductive behavior. So many different data sets by now. This course has been running for 12 years here. The AIVM class has been running since 2021. It's one of the outcomes of the pandemic, when I had time to sit down together with a colleague and develop this. So you can teach a pro to do anything and be happy while doing so. Remember, the cats, it can come from very different realms, and think about bird flu right now. I'm receiving a lot of requests for how do I have access to data. I'm working on the bird flu in dairy cattle. That is a big topic right now, zoonotic topic here in the US. So lots of questions are emerging. I think opportunities for AI in veterinary medicine, and please read this as any form of medicine and agriculture. AI offers pattern predictions for how we perceive health, disease, production, welfare. And we want to reach into this by educating ourselves into early detection and systematic monitoring. I teach my classes to ask, when confronting an AI application, to ask 5 questions. Number 1, where are the computations performed? Is this locally on a portable edge device like a mobile phone, or cloud-based? And what's the speed of this detection? If I have a target like a cow standing somewhere, I can afford to have a slower speed of detection compared to something that is moving fast, like my gazelle somewhere in the savannah. How is the heat dissipated? Heat formation is one of the bottlenecks when it comes to AI applications. How is that dissipated? Because any computation, and as intensely as AI applications will produce heat, you do not want to pin a camera or device to your own coveralls that heats up to 70 or 80 degrees Celsius or 126 plus degrees Fahrenheit. Another question I want them to ask is, do you depend upon web access? Because we work a lot in remote areas, and I think they are closer than we think, and they are everywhere where you go into remote areas. Do we depend on web's access? So one of my priorities is to generate these applications in a portable form with contained heat dissipation in the appropriate speed, without web access being mandatory. I have nothing against web access, but if it comes to remote areas and underserved areas of healthcare, we might have to not be dependent from web access. And the power requirements. Can this run on a battery or not? Do I need a power plug in the wall? Because in remote areas, this might not be feasible. We might have to depend on solar energy requirements. There are intermediate requirements for these AI and power demands from these models. I think we can translate, and these are opportunities for AI application. We can translate our skills. Think about me talking about digital dermatitis, these lesions in cows' feet, and somebody in Japan wants to learn about how to classify this. I can make a mobile phone app given their photographs, and in this way translate into something like, what would Dr. D say about this lesion? Think about telemedicine, underserved areas. I think that AI-enhanced pattern recognition can alleviate the workload and the repetitive tasks. This is an opportunity. And we can sometimes solve impossible tasks, and we have to make people aware of this. This is part of our educational mission, to make people aware of these possibilities for early disease recognition. Think about lung cancer in the early stages. It has been proven that AI can detect early stages of lung cancer, at least, if not better, compared to a radiology expert, as an example. Then there's a lot of decentralized learning going on. The usefulness of graduate degrees from universities is being questioned as a fundament, and teaching opportunities, problem-solving opportunities, and AI-enhanced remote expertise, like my Japanese colleagues wanting to train. In addition, we need to enhance our communication skills. I think we need to learn how to use and apply these LLM-enhanced expert systems for detection, for diagnosis, for treatment, and so forth, for advice and for teaching. Multi-modeling, I think we have not even begun to explore what multimodal modeling can do for our AI applications. And generative AI is out there. Think about making prediction about what would these lesions look like in the near future. Then challenges for AI in veterinary medicine and healthcare. There are currently no distinct job descriptions for DVMs and life scientists that have skills working with data and statistical models, including the AI applications. There are no true business models for practices using AI-enhanced tools, and we are facing a pretty strong generational conflict there between the digitally native speakers and the previous generations who do not use digital applications in this very intuitive way. Then the IP protection of AI-enhanced tools, our students, and I think nobody really knows how to go about this thoroughly. I can package one of my models into a little device like a wooden box, and that can be IP protected. It's very hard to protect software. I think implementation of AI-enhanced tools in the animal environment and agriculture environment is a big, big challenge. So I'm thinking about the tropics and subtropics as well. Think about cattle and dust, humidity, temperatures, UV light, the lack of power and web access, the real-time detection demands and remoteness of locations. And I can implement it maybe once, but making it durable, that's a totally different challenge. So the long-term application of AI-enhanced tools will continue to be a challenge, particularly in the underserved areas of this globe. And we need to educate ourselves, including our students, about these challenges. I have been taught, and that's among other things at MIT, that the combination of domain knowledge like healthcare workers possess with the expertise in applied AI. I don't have to become the specialist in computer science or data science or AI. I just have to know how things work. But then combining it with my domain knowledge, that is something that will contribute to the identity of our healthcare systems, and needs to be enhanced and needs to be thought about. So again, the combination of domain knowledge and combined with expertise in AI, this is what I was taught will cause or result in the breakthroughs of AI applications. And I think knowledge about the ethics of AI-enhanced tools regarding accessibility, bias of data sets, accountability of where do the data come from, inclusiveness and sustainability, this all contributes to what we call democratization of AI. And I think critical consumers of AI will contribute to this democratization of AI. So in conclusion and as an outlook, I think you can teach a motivated healthcare savvy person to do anything. As long as it is ethically responsible, it can be funded and it's reasonable and can be implemented. I think generative AI is a phenomenon of our times, and it's leading towards persuasive AI in the sense we're going to be facing AI-enhanced tools that will try to convince us that an action upon a detection is going to be the best way forward. And actually, I'm going to cite Ian Lequin, one of the Meta and computer science, data science engineers there. He's like I think a very progressive thinker when it comes to application of AI. And he said, intelligence alone is not dominant. So the hesitation of applying AI out of the fear that something unethical might happen, he's not so concerned about generative AI on its own and AI on its own being intelligent. It is when you, and I continue the quote, it is when you place intelligence in a social environment full of interests, this is when AI might try to dominate a conversation. And persuasive AI is increasingly being used and applied. I think our students and course participants need to be made aware of that. And at the same time, data is becoming I mean, is very valuable, and simulating data has led to the term degenerative AI, because as soon as I add simulated data into my pool of other data sets, there is a degree of degeneration of the prediction performance happening, until at the extreme, if I exclusively use simulated data, then my prediction output will be all the same, it's all the average. Yeah, so degenerative AI is happening. It's another phenomenon happening. And in conclusion, AI is far from intelligent right now. It is strong about facts and pattern predictions, from facts that it has been trained upon. It processes information and connections that it trained on. It cannot reason in the sense of putting it into a larger global context. And I think this bears possibilities where critical users of AI applications need to be trained increasingly. And my very little effort in training veterinary and agriculturally interested, healthcare interested students about this is where this comes in. So with this, I want to thank all my collaborators. And I want to draw your attention to a community art project where I painted 8 wooden panels to show that cattle can do very well in human care. I truly believe that among all the talk and discussion about artificial intelligence and work and everything, there's a work-life balance that should show that we care about our patients, in my case about cattle and their owners and the communities attached. So if you want to have a look at these paintings, you can. And this is an example about a holiday greeting card. With this, I wish you all peaceful holidays and a good end of this calendar year until perhaps we talk again. And this ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dote.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. So you have a question. Nana has a question for you. And he says, have you seen challenges whereby some of the tribal knowledge you have acquired in VetMed, are you seeing AI challenge some of the domain knowledge that you've had over time? That's first of 2 questions.
Yeah, so yes, as I mentioned, there's a generational challenge where the older generations are more hesitant to apply these AI tools compared to the younger generation. And our younger generation veterinarians are being integrated into conventional and traditional private practices. And very often they come back after rather like, let's say a year, and say like, everything that I learned was just not useful in private practice. And I truly believe this has to change. There are communication challenges where we don't have the right verbiage to talk about these applications. That has to change. And there's this general fear, I would say, of artificial intelligence taking over jobs and livelihoods. And I truly believe that needs not be the case in general if we apply AI, if we as healthcare interested community remain involved in the development. That would be my answer.
And then the second question is, based on the significant accomplishments that your students have achieved through AI, would you advocate for more time to be allocated beyond 2 weeks, assuming this will reduce the time spent on traditional courses? By the way, Dr. Nana is a PhD holder in AI and machine learning focus. So his questions are targeted.
Awesome. Professor Nana, thank you so much for these questions, and I fully respect your interjection here. I don't think that we need to take away from the clinical expertise of our students. We should enrich that expertise. The 2 weeks right now are part of what we call old style curriculum, UW-Madison School of Veterinary Medicine. They are revamping the entire curriculum into a less scholar one and more applied problem-solving type of curriculum. And there, I think we're going to start seeing AI applications from the 1st through the 4th year increasingly. So we will motivate our 1st-year students to start thinking about the problem they want to apply AI to. 2nd year, collect the data. 3rd year, learn how to train the data. and fourth year, then how to present the results in little modules, yeah, but then intertwined with their normal clinical curriculum. Yes, so I think it has to expand, including UW-Madison is hiring across all departments 150 AI faculty, and 2 of them will be part of the veterinary school. 24 are being applied, are being advertised for the agricultural and life sciences. So just examples of how much these disciplines are expanding.
150 professors.
150. So keep watching out for those advertisements and apply, please, as you see fit.
Beautiful. Last question, because we have overrun and she has a flight to catch. This is from Michael Glaros. He says, in your expert opinion, Prof. Dote, what has to be true from a business model and cost perspective to make AI adoption valuable for private vet practices?
I think it's a conjunction of saleable hours. Veterinarians and healthcare workers are often paid by the hour in private practices. So if I come out and I take pictures of your cows as an example, or of your livestock, then that time needs to be saleable. Right now, I do this for my own hobby, but I have a salary, so it doesn't count as that. I think a business model will have to take into account the tremendous amount of time that goes into making and training these models on a per case basis and fit for purpose basis. And we should encourage that being something that is worth paying for. I often face producers when I say like, okay, no, I need some support, financial support per month. You will have to pay me something per month for me to continue doing this. And this is the moment when they say like, oh no, thank you very much. We're going to continue with just screening using human eyes. So this is my point. This is one of the challenges. The business models are not there yet. And we are away from the big companies like Meta and Microsoft. And so monetizing upon this expertise on a smaller scale, that's a big challenge.
Cool. Michael likes your response and says it solves the problem of quality if the data is collected by skilled practitioners.
It's that data collection combined with your domain expertise. That will create a niche, I think, for applications of AI that the big companies do not have.
Gotcha. Okay, she has a flight to catch. Thank you, Dr. Dote, for the sacrifice. And she's doing a cross-continental flight, and she has just sacrificed to be here. We don't take this for granted. Excited, happy to have you. And we hope to connect with you in one of our subsequent events. Thank you so much, and have a safe flight to Europe.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure, not a sacrifice. And again, best wishes for the end of the year and your holidays to all.
Thank you, Professor Dote. Okay.
I have a question, please. Is there any way we can, like, can we reach her in person? I mean, like, send an email to her or something.
She's run away. I will send you her LinkedIn profile. And
I'm still here. You're welcome to please contact me, and I'd be happy to respond.
Okay, I'll send you an email through the one on your presentation, if that's okay.
I put my email in the chat again.
Okay.
There you go. It's
yeah,
there.
safe flight. Yes.
Thank you.
So the next person that we have, thank you so much, Professor Dete, and have a safe trip. The next person that we're going to have will be Adewale Yusuf. And now we are taking a break from the presentations. I see a lot of people have run away because I guess they were bored. Now we're going to have some hands-on sessions, 2 sessions. Coincidentally, their names are Wale. First guy is Wale, the other guy is Wale, but he goes by the Jewish name Gamaliel. And Adewale is an AI expert and tech expert who is based out of Dublin, Ireland. And he is a 4-time back-to-back Microsoft MVP. Wale, can you have your video on while I read your profile? Wale is an experienced BI consultant with over 7 years of experience in providing business intelligence solutions to clients across the world. Detailed knowledge in data warehousing, data mapping, data analytics and visualizations, process validation, and business analysis. He has been proven to understand customer requirements and translate them to actionable project plans. He's a dedicated engineer and he's very hardworking with a passion for big data. He's skilled on the Microsoft stack, that is ranging from Microsoft Excel to Power BI to Azure Synapse to Azure Data Fabric to Power Query, Office 365. And he's also been able to apply these skills to real estate appraisal, graphic design, and he's an expert trainer. He's a Microsoft certified trainer and international speaker and has skills in adult learning methodologies and instructional design. He is trained and he trains people on Power Apps, Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, and the whole Microsoft Azure data stack. Today, Wale will be showing us AI scenarios in Azure Data Fabric. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with your emojis, Wale Yusuf. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I was actually blushing while you're introducing me. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to hear from Prof, the last person that spoke. I really gained a lot from his presentation. So I'll be sharing my screen in a second. Just let me know when you can see my screen, then I'll go ahead. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen, right? Just a second. Yeah. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Screen is good, loud and clear, sharp and clear.
Okay, great. So nice to be here. I have just 15 minutes for my session, so I'll try to be brief as much as possible. So what I'm here to talk about is AI analytics now with Microsoft Fabric and also some AI services that we have in Azure. So Mr. Tosin has done a beautiful, or let me say, a well-befitting introduction about me. So I don't need to kind of introduce myself again. I'm just going to kind of skip that part, right? So basically today I'll be just talking to you about Microsoft Fabric for those that are new to Microsoft Fabric. So I'm going to kind of introduce you from the unknown to the known. So which means talking about the simple Power BI data structures that we have, or if you have used Excel before, or if you have used Tableau or any data platform that you've used before. So I'm going to explain that simple architecture. And I'm also going to explain how we are now moving to AI-centric Fabric architectures, which means everything we are doing in terms of analysis, in terms of bringing our data together, in terms of managing our data, in terms of analyzing our data, AI can be incorporated into all of these. So practically, you don't need to be a core developer, or let me say a core code writers before you can actually do a lot of things with AI in the new AI-centric Fabric architecture. I'm also going to be talking about some Azure AI services that I can show you that you can actually explore. They are quite simple. You don't need to actually start writing the code before you can use all these things, like I said. Then probably I'm going to show you a short demo as well. So if you are a Power BI developer or a Tableau developer, or you've been creating a report yourself in Excel, just see yourself as a Power BI developer. And that's what we've been doing, right? We start from maybe bringing our data together, cleaning all this data, bringing it into Power BI or bringing it into Excel or bringing it into Azure, using SQL database to kind of clean up this data, create a view. So you are no longer going to be that. You're no longer going to be centered on that. You're going to be maybe focused on something we call Fabric right now, which is one of the innovative of Microsoft in terms of data, right? So you're not going to be a Power BI developer or a data analyst or a data management developer anymore. You're basically going to be a Fabric developer. And who is a Fabric developer? It's somebody that actually understands how Microsoft bring all of these data solutions together, from data management to data analysis to data science to business intelligence. They bring all of this together in one platform. And you, as a developer, a Fabric developer, you are using this platform to kind of make sure that all your data is telling you the right story, or let me say the right information you want to get from your data. So that's what you're going to be, basically, a Fabric developer. Now, when we look at the Power BI-centric architectures, which is the one we are kind of usually familiar with, it's kind of simple, right? Because what we do basically is we get a data source, wherever our data is sitting. Probably you have your data sitting in an operational system, maybe on SQL, or maybe on even Excel, or maybe sitting on whatever your data is sitting, right? So you get that data source and you bring it into a data flow. That's even if your data is big enough, you just want to bring it into a data flow, and you put that into a Power BI directly, or you put that directly into Excel, right? Or another way you can do is you don't need to go through a data flow. You bring your data directly wherever it's sitting. Maybe your data is sitting on SQL Server, and you bring it directly into Power BI. And you start analyzing your data. You start telling story. You start doing some ETL with Power Query, right? And then once you are done with that, then you share it with people. And how do you share? You publish it on the Power BI workspace, where you can actually publish a report. And the semantic model is also available for people to build their own reports on top. And also you have a data flow, right? So this is the usual architectures that most of us kind of use, until we are now moving to these AI-centric architectures, which is called Fabric, right? Fabric-centric architecture. This is what we are moving to now. Now, before you move your data directly into any visualization tool, or maybe Excel, or maybe Power BI, Tableau, or any visualization tools that you are using, there is now something bridging a gap between that, and that is called Microsoft Fabric. So that is the AI-centric platform, which allows you to put all of these things together, use AI to make your life easy, before you now kind of say, okay, I want to share this report. I want to put this report in a visualization tool, like maybe Power BI, or I want to put this report in a visualization tool, maybe Excel, right? So basically, in your Power BI workspace, compared to what you had before, you now have a lot of workloads now, compared to the simple report, and then let's say just a semantic model that you had before. So you have more interesting things right now. So you have like, you can actually curate a lakehouse. You can actually curate a notebook. You can actually curate a data pipeline. You can create a model, a machine learning model right there in Microsoft Fabric, right? And the idea of this, like I said, is we don't want you to be a code writers. You can use artificial intelligence to get things done faster. And this Microsoft Fabric has a lot of benefits when you are moving to this AI-centric, right? And some of the benefits of this architecture is unified analytics. So you don't need to have different platforms. For example, you have a platform in SQL, you have a platform in Salesforce, you have a platform definitely somewhere. Now, this is a unified platform. You have all of this in one place. You don't need to kind of split your solutions in different places. Data governance is always also easy, access to documentation, and also self-service. Data quality is also in place. Then the most important thing also is data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. When your data is in one place and you have a control of everything in one place, it's easier for you to kind of use AI to test a lot of algorithm on these data, because now you're not spending a lot of times on ETL. You already have your data in one place. So you can easily expose this to AI across your organization, even across your Microsoft Teams, across your SharePoint. Now you have everything in one place. It's easier for you to call your data. And like I said, it's AI powered, which is Copilot integration and LLM models, large language models as well. So basically, what makes this AI-centric difference, I've mentioned it before, it's data silos, which is you have one lake. One lake is like, just see one lake as a lake, a very big lake. And then inside that lake, you just build maybe an apartment or maybe a building inside those lake, but everything is still within that lake, right? Just like here in Ireland, right? We are surrounded by water. So everything is just inside the lake. So we have a lake and everything inside that lake. So basically that's it. And then there's also another thing I like, which is the shortcut part of the Fabric. So shortcut is you actually simulating the data from one workspace to another without actually copying the data. Because most of the time, we always lose the version of the truth if you keep copying from one place to another. But with these architectures, I can say if I need a people data from HR, for example, I need a people data. I don't need to copy that data. I only need a shortcut to that data. So I just shortcut to HR environment, and it brought that data to wherever I want to use it. So it's still one copy of all your data. Then the data format is stored in open format, which is a package format, and it's very, very optimized for large models and large enterprise data architectures. If you have a lot of data, 100 millions, 200 millions of data, this stores it in packet, and it makes your performance of your report work faster. The user experience is also one. Imagine data engineer, data analyst, data scientist, AI expert, AI engineers, business analysts. Everybody is working with one user experience. That's going to be very lovely, right? Because we all understand what we are doing. We're all using the same platform, and then we're all using AI to make sure that what most of the things we are doing is okay. We have access control as well, which is one access control because it's one platform, it's one monitoring hub. It's also in place as well. So this is all the workload that we have in Microsoft Fabric. We have the data fabric, data factory workload. We have the data engineering workload. We have the data warehouse workload. We have the data science workload. We have the real-time intelligence workload, and we have the Azure SQL database workload as well, right in Fabric, right? Everything is in one place. We have the Power BI, which is for visualization as well, inside this same Fabric. And all these are powered by AI with Copilot in Microsoft Fabric. We also have OneLake. Like I said, they are all on OneLake, and we have Microsoft Purview for our security in place. So basically, this is the platform. And if I'm going to show you probably a short demo of what this platform looks like, because most people will be like, I've not seen this before. What does this platform look like? Or what is Microsoft Fabric basically? So here you can see my screen here. So this is Microsoft Fabric, all your data in one location. You organize, you collaborate, and then you create them. So this is all of this workload that I've mentioned. I can easily create any workload from here, for example. Let's say I want to create a database. It's very simple. If you are creating a database or you are not a database expert, people usually find it difficult to set up a database. But in Microsoft Fabric, it's quite simple. To set up a database is just one click away. I just need to maybe go into a workspace, and from a workspace, I create a new item. And then from new item there, I look at all of my workload. What do I want to create? And then I say I want to create a SQL database. Very easy and fast. So I click on the SQL database, and then I give it a name to say, what name do I want to call it? Let me just say database demo. Database demo 1, and I click on create. And immediately I create this. Just in like 2 or 3 seconds, I have set up a full database, right? A full SQL database, which is equivalent to Azure SQL database, right? So basically, that's how optimized the platform can be. And from that database, I can start writing my SQL code. I can start writing, curating my a table, or even importing and bringing in a table into the database, right? But this is, this has been created right now. I can see right now I have created a database just in a matter of seconds, and I can even bring a sample data to start working on this database. I can create a pipeline to bring in the data into the database. I can also use T-SQL to create a table, right? Let me even click on sample data, for example. If I click on sample data, I can automatically load some sample data that you can see here. Let me just see if I can load some sample data from Microsoft server, so that you can see that, right? And I can also create a table myself while that is loading. I can say I want to start from a template, then I want to create a new table, and I also want to open this in Visual Studio Code, or I want to use SQL Server Management Studio. Now, the most important thing about this is this aspect that you can see here called Copilot. So Copilot basically is the power behind driving this thing. Just if you have worked with ChatGPT before, it's a similar experience, right? You are just typing a question, and this is actually performing a something interesting for you, and that's Copilot. Let's say, for example, everything you need in Microsoft Fabric is right here. I can actually create a data flow starting from ingesting my data, bringing the data from wherever it's sitting, and storing it in Microsoft Fabric, or using a machine learning to store and train this model, and also visualizing and setting up some notifications to track what is really going on in my report. So I can use this platform to create a data solution and an enterprise solution from start to finish. Another thing I can do is, for example, I want to set up a data pipeline and I want to use Copilot. Probably I don't know how to do that myself. Or maybe I just want to work smarter, basically. I can actually set up a data pipeline without the need of stressing myself too much, bringing an order data into this data warehouse, for example. If I click on new pipeline, I just give it a name and say maybe load orders. And from here, instead of starting this pipeline from the start myself, I can actually go to Copilot and put a prompt on what I really want to create to say, okay, I want to bring an order table from maybe my SQL database, and I want to load this into my data warehouse. So let's say I want to order the data from Azure SQL database, and I want to load it into my Azure data warehouse, which is right there in Microsoft Fabric. And just by typing this, and it's creating this data flow for me. And I also put the conditions to say, I want you to send me an email if this fail, right? And you can see that right now it has created this pipeline, and I can run this pipeline right now. You know what people go through before they can create this pipeline, especially the data engineers and those that work with us. So it's not really that easy. Another thing is when I refresh this table right now, you will see that the order that I created is now here, very fast. If I also go to the monitor data pipeline, I can see data pipeline that fails, and I can tell Copilot to tell me why this data pipeline fails and what are the solutions that I need to actually do to actually fix this. And you can see that it showed me the error code 3204, and it showed me the recommendations as well to say, okay, so this is what you should do. You should review the VM size and consider using different VM size. So basically, that is as much as I can actually do when I'm working with data pipeline. And this, I'm not stressing myself creating a pipeline from scratch. So for those that are new to pipeline, you can actually create a pipeline just by typing a prompt. Now, let's look at another example in data warehouse. I have a data warehouse setup, and I actually want to get some information about this data warehouse. Even though you are new to a data warehouse and you are like, which question should I ask? You don't even know. You can use Copilot to say, okay, ask a question, suggest a question that I can ask about this warehouse. And from here, you can actually now suggest different questions you can ask for you. You can see interest of back order customers. What are the top 3 primary customers? I can ask this question. It's going to generate a code for me. And when I run this code, you will see the result of this code and the table here. Quite simple. I can also go and put in a prompt myself and say, I want to create a view of list of customer by lifetime value who have actually back order for how many things they have actually done. So I'm just putting a prompt. And by doing this, it generates a code for me, which I can run this code and with a lot of joins. For those that don't even understand SQL, you see that it has actually did this for you. So you don't need to have very, very, let me say great understanding of SQL or be a lord in SQL before you can actually generate any prompt or any code. You just need to have a basic understanding to understand that the AI is not giving you the wrong prompt, basically, so that you can actually master prompt engineering. So I can also look at Power BI as well. I don't know how to use this visualization tool, and I want to use artificial intelligence to create a report in Power BI. I don't need to start creating report. I can just click on a new report from here. And once I click on that, I can give a prompt on the type of report I want with Copilot to say, I want you to create this report for me, create a page breakdown of customer lifetime value and this. Once I do that, it's just a matter of seconds. It has created a report, a full-blown report for me. And this is just me typing a prompt with AI, really. So the world has actually gone really far. We just need to make sure that we kind of learn all this AI. Like I used to tell people, AI is not going to take over your job, right? You are the one, people that know how to use AI, they are the one that are going to take over your job. Next thing I also want to show you is we have a lot of AI, Azure AI services that you can actually leverage on. And these AI services are actually easy to use. I may not be able to show you a demo now because I think I exhaust my Azure's licenses. So you have Azure OpenAI account, which you can actually set up a co-pilot, or let me say an agent yourself, because we have agents that just came out in Microsoft Ignite recently. You can set up an agent yourself, select the model you want to use, whether you want to use ChatGPT or even you want to use Llama. So, and you're able to fix this up yourself. You can use an AI search. You can use a computer visions, which you want AI to identify something. You can use a face app and all that, right? But I have a very short time today, so I will not be going in depth into this. But I'm going to leave you with this quote that says that learning is not going to, you are not going to acquire learning by just, you are not going to acquire a particular skill by just thinking you will have it. The best thing you should do is just start and practicing. So the way you do that is start practicing. So I think I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much. If there's any question, I hope I didn't use more than my time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wale. No, you didn't overuse, but because we had already overrun on Professor Dotti's time, so we have a kind of backlog. I guess we'll catch up very soon. Um, Thank you so much, Wale. Very, very grateful. Sean Biokin is asking, is this Microsoft Fabric a free one or you have to subscribe? Or is there a possibility of getting free Fabric credit or something of the sort?
Yeah, so there's a trial license for 60 days if you want to try it. So you can try Microsoft Fabric for 60 days. And then if you want to really learn, you can go to this link I have on my screen to actually practice some exercises and set up a 60-day trial. But Microsoft Fabric is not free. You definitely need to pay to be able to enjoy those AI services.
Wale, would you be kind enough to drop this link in the chat window, please?
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
Okay, in the absence of any other questions, Wale, we are grateful. What's the temperature in Dublin tonight?
We are about -2 degrees today.
Only -2.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So it's -2. And how many layers of clothing are you wearing?
Not really. My house is very warm. But when I'm going out, I will probably wear like 3.
You put on your armor. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wale. We're excited to have you here. Beautiful camera you've got also, by the way. You need to package it and send it down to me once we are done with this class. And it's amazing that we can now build data models with queries and with simple stuff. Yes, so amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next session is going to be by Gamaliel. Am I correct? I just need to confirm. I think that's the oil well prediction session. That's the oil well prediction session by Gamaliel. Yes. So Gamaliel, are you on the call? Thank you. So Gamaliel is a geophysicist who is a geophysicist turned data scientist. He's very, very much like Professor Dotte, who, one second, please. He's very much like Professor Dotte, who is a domain expert in a particular field and has taken that knowledge and applied it into her area of specialty. Gamaliel studied geophysics in the University of Lagos and Nigeria and has applied that domain expertise, has gone through the hard work of learning how to write software and gone further into learning data science and machine learning. And now he's able to use that skill set to now do something very critical. In fact, you need to watch out for this guy because what he's about to show you is a winner in any oil and gas company. So the big oil and gas companies in the world today will be able to afford this easily. They will pay another big company like Microsoft or SAP to deliver this for them. But the small companies in the oil and gas industry, but I would probably want to save some cost, will not want to pay big companies, and they would come to ISVs, we call them independent software vendors, like Gamaliel, and he's going to tell you, and one of the biggest challenges oil and gas companies have is, we've seen an oil well. How do we know whether this oil well has enough oil? And that if we invest $50 million in this oil well, we're going to make money from it for the next 10, 15 years. They are not, so just imagine you as let's go the African way. You want to sell pure water. You want to decide, if I start selling pure water, people just start buying pure water and they start selling and then they hope and pray. But in oil and gas, it's different. In oil and gas, they are going to check, they are going to analyze, they're going to see how much they're going to make over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years before they go into it. And what he's doing now is taking data from the crust of the earth, data from the soil, data from the quality of the soil, data about how that environment looks like, putting it all together into a model, and then using it to project how much oil we can generate from this place. And then you now transform that into cubic meters or barrels per day, and then you get revenue. So it's record breaking. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gamaliel with this product ends a venture capitalist investment very soon. So I'm going to read his profile. Gamaliel is a skilled geophysicist and software engineer With over 5 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, he has expertise in reservoir characterization, geochemical analysis, seismic interpretation, and production forecasting. Gamaliel has worked on significant projects, including pore pressure prediction, reservoir modeling, and geomechanics for produced water reinjection studies, as well as developing a reservoir production forecasting application called OilFlow. Driven by a passion for innovation, Gamaliel leverages his strong programming skills to create practical solutions for complex challenges in energy production and exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Gamaliel Adun. His Yoruba name is Mike Wale, so we have two Wales with us tonight. Welcome, Gamaliel. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tosin. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here to showcase this application. Just let me share my screen. Please let me know when you can see my screen. All right. Okay. So I believe my screen is up now. Oh, great. So thank you very much, Josie, for that wonderful introduction. I was actually blushing. So we'll just quickly get right into it. Oil and gas is basically like the backbone of every major development in the world. So there's no way we will talk about the development of the world down to where we are today without mentioning oil and gas. Never mind that we are trying to move away from that into renewable sources, but still a significant portion of our energy is supplied by oil and gas. And for oil and gas companies, it's very important that we are able to predict the future. I think generally all humans are hung up on predicting the future, but it becomes more important for us in the oil and gas industry because everything we do hinges on that. So if we make a mistake, we potentially could be out of business. And so we want to know with some very good degree of certainty what will happen in the future. And that particular desire has given rise to a couple of things that have happened over the years. So let me just go on to the next slide. Yep. So in the 1930s, a particular method was introduced, which is Ab's equations. And these equations, they help us to basically understand the processes that are governing the flow of a well. And we can now extrapolate into the future. And it did this with a very good degree of success. And then in the 50s to 70s, as computational power increased, we went on to advanced flow simulations, where we can better understand the subsurface and all the processes that tie together to produce or to give us the production which we see at the surface. And then in the 2000s down, we've started going more into statistical and probabilistic modeling in order for us to predict the likelihood of certain occurrences happening based on the flow regimes or based on the history of that particular field, reservoir, or well. Now, in all of this, there are major challenges, and I think the major one stems from having so much data. So imagine collecting a data set that has maybe 100 variables, and you collect it every day for 30 days. It will be very time consuming if you have to manually analyze that data. You are bound to make a lot of mistakes. And you more or less can't really prognose and develop meaningful models out of all that data if you try to do it with equations. And so what we have done is to try and incorporate artificial intelligence, machine learning, which are able to churn and look at all this data and then come up with models, come up with predictions, come up with forecasts that better represent the data we are seeing. So basically, artificial intelligence allows us to use all the historic data that we have. We can leverage the trends. We can look at a lot more things that affect production. And as such, we can come up with more reliable forecasts. And we basically can look at a lot more things beyond just the production. We can look at the reservoir health, the well health. We can predict with some level of certainty when maybe a particular well will quit production or stop flowing, because we now have access to more computational tools and better models, right? So at this point, we'll quickly go into a demo. We'll quickly go into a demo. So I am showing on the screen now Oilflow, right? Which is an application that I developed. And the primary reason behind this was I was a reservoir engineer and I had to analyze, I think, over 200 wells. And there is no way humanly possible you can do that in a very short period of time. And business decisions need to be made, investments need to be made based on the results from this analysis. And so what I did was to basically build this tool, which leverages machine learning models to try and crunch all that data and generate a single model, which we can now use as a prediction tool, right? And it's very intuitive. So what you do is you load in your CSV. Now, there are two very important columns that your CSV must have. It must have the dates, the well names, or beg your pardon, 3, and the historic rates. And once you have loaded your CSV, you would be given the option to select what column contains your well names, which are the unique identifiers, and your time, your production time. And once you do that, you can view, you have the freedom to view the data you have just loaded in. You can go and you can expand to have a more detailed view of everything that is going on. And you can look through, basically. You can look through the different things. And once you're done with that, you can move on to the exploratory data analysis. And what you'll basically be doing now is to look at each of your wells, plot their production against time, and start to see how, the entire production has gone. So here we have data from about 2000 all the way to 2006. And that is every day. So that's a lot of data. And what we can now do is to go on and use machine learning. Now, this method has also been employed by the bigger companies. I remember when Tosi was talking earlier, he mentioned that the bigger companies, the international oil companies, have the ability to get, to contract out to large tech companies to develop applications like this for them. And ExxonMobil, they published a paper on one, and that was exactly what they did. And what they found out is that the time series analysis eventually resolves into a regression, right? So basically what we are doing is a regression. And what you can see is that we have production declining gradually with time. And so if you look at this now, this doesn't look like a good fit. And as a subject matter expert, that is where your expertise comes in. You can see that, okay, we have this data point here, which kind of drags the whole thing. And the current way we walk around that is to just eliminate that data point. And on the fly, you can generate a pretty good fit to your historic data. And it's a regression, which is quite straightforward to do. And once you do this regression, you are basically told this is your initial production rate at the start of your forecast. You're told about the decline, that is from this fit. How was the well declining? How was the production declining per year? You're given a decline exponent, which is a function of the equation of the model that does this fitting and prediction. And then you're allowed to put in an economic limit. Now, this is flexible in the sense that small companies usually have lower economic limits because they have a smaller overhead, and bigger companies usually have larger ones because for a well to keep itself to be profitable, it needs to produce high volumes. And you can also select whether you're doing gas forecast or oil forecast. And that is majorly the difference between both of them is really their units. And then you can talk about the number of years you want to run your forecast for, in this case, your prediction for. So once you're done with that, you can run your forecast and immediately you have your forecast table. Now, this is happening very fast because I'm running it locally. This application is also available online. It has been deployed, so we can look at it if we want to. I'm having a trouble switching tabs here, but yes. So I will drop the link in the chat. You can go and have a look at it and basically engage with the application. Okay. So we can see this, right? And what this has basically done is to the model, I believe what the model has done here is to look at what's the average, right? If we had projected our line, probably this is where the line would have landed, and then it just continues. And it also tells you how much of what the volume of what you produce within that 10-year period is. And in this case, it is 309 million scoff of gas. And what you now need to do is to now go and multiply by the price of gas per million scoff, and then use that to decide whether it will be a good venture to invest in this particular well or to just kill the well, seeing that its production has really declined over time. Now, looking at this, because of the proprietary nature of oil and gas data, I do not have the freedom to show you more recent wells. But what you can see here is that this well has pretty much reached its end of life. So from an economic perspective, it might not be good to keep this well flowing because except you have very, very low overhead costs. But if we had a more recent well, the decline will stop maybe somewhere here, and you can forecast the rest of this. Okay, and we have the option to download the forecast or the predictions, and then what we usually do in the industry is to now do that and use that to calculate what our revenues per month and per year would be. That is an entirely different domain. That's economic predictions based on what the wells have been estimated to do. So we can always go select another well, look at it. Again, this data is very noisy, but somehow we still manage to fit some kind of line. We can run the forecast and we can see that the forecast does well to tell us that this particular well is going to generate about 12 or 13,000 million scoff, which is 13 billion scoff of gas. And in industry, that right there is something you might want to look into. Although you would notice here that this data stops at 1991. This is publicly available data. I do not have the permission to share clients' data. But what you see here is that this data stops at 1991. If we got the rest, we probably would see it do something like this, right? So going forward, this application is still very much under development. It has been for the last 2 or 3 years. And what we're trying to do is to go beyond machine learning and regression methods and go into deep learning so that we can capture this cyclic nature of the data we see. But usually these are man-made. So typically your well will want to do a steady decline, but if you shorten the well or limit its production because of your facility constraints, then you can expect to see something like this. But this would be a cause for further investigation because we know that our wells typically do not do this. And then we can select the different methods. And basically what these are like from pessimistic to optimistic. So what I have been showing is the optimistic model. Let's use this same data. Let's go look at a well that has a bit more clarity. Okay, so let's use this data, right? Okay, so we see this, right? So the pessimistic model says what we can get out of this well is, let's run our forecast. For 12 years, we'll get about 20 billion scoff of gas out of this well. Then our most optimistic model, let's go run the forecast, says we'll get about 17, but you can already see that that diverges from the truth, right? It diverges a lot from the truth. So maybe we want to stick with our pessimistic model, and then we have the mid case in between both of them. This is closer, and this would be in between. So, well, again, this says 19,000, but so this is where we are. This is a beta application, still under development. But yes, if you would like to try it out, if you're a reservoir engineer or a production analyst, and you have a couple of wells, you just want to do your business forecasting, this would be a very good tool for you, and you can reduce your overhead cost, which means you don't have to go, pay large amounts if this is what you want to do. And this just shows us how far the analysis has come. Right there, I'm running this on my laptop. In the past, you would need to get like a really big workstation to run this. And that just shows credence to the fact that the models are getting better and better every day. Our computing power is also getting better. Okay, so at this point, if there are any questions, I think I can take as many as time would allow. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gamaliel. Before anybody asks a question, I have a question for you. Now, can you come down to our level? Tell me, like, I'm 5. What does it mean? What do you mean by scoff of gas? How much does a scoff of gas cost in dollars? And what is the value of a scoff of gas? Thank you.
All right. So a scoff of gas is standard cubic feet. So it's the measure of how much gas will occupy one standard cubic foot of volume under standard temperature and pressure. And currently, I would have to check what the price of gas in the market is. I know oil is about 80 barrels, $80 per barrel.
Yeah, estimate the price of gas for us per cubic meter or something, so we can just run from there. It doesn't have to be accurate, plus or minus 10 or 20, it would be.
Okay, so just give me a moment here, please. Okay. Okay, so I'm seeing it's around $3.29. Right, it's about $3.29 per scoff. Yes, it's about $3.29 million per scoff. And if you do the multiplication, so at 20,000, that is what? That's running into billions of dollars. And these are very important for the oil and gas companies. But one thing to note here is that the investments into these assets too are usually very, very commensurate. So usually we would do this analysis, and then that would now determine how much money we can invest. So if we're going to make a total revenue of, in this case, about 60 billion, I guess, yeah, we're going to make about $60 billion in selling the gas, then it might make sense to invest maybe 40 to 50% of that to try and, get the asset from just being fallow ground to putting wells and putting, facilities there to make sure that we can transport that gas to the end user, to the market.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, any questions for Gamaliel? Anybody? Any questions? You should like oil money, don't you? Okay, I think you're lucky. Nobody has any question. Okay, good. Sheon, thank you. how can a layman who is not specialized in the oil and gas industry get some of this data?
Okay. So the UK does something pretty interesting. And what they do is after some time, they let us, people like us who build applications and run this thing, have access to this data. So the website is called nstauthority.co.uk. So it's the North Sea Transition Authority. And that data is available there.
Can you drop the link for us, please?
Okay. Yes, I'll do that right away. So, but one thing I would say is you would not get, and just like I said during the demo, you won't get the most up-to-date information because again, countries are usually very covert with such data because it's a matter of national security. So they have to protect their revenues and all of that. But yes, you can have access to the old ones, which pretty much mimic the current ones, only that the exact values will be different.
Okay, thank you so much, Gamaliel. It's wonderful having you here. Thank you so much for taking time to show us this. I know it's a lot of work to get to this level, and we hope that we wish you the best in your endeavors. We hope very soon that you get a big brief and to be able to do this at a larger scale. And we hope that your software startup grows to heights and becomes a unicorn before you just know it. All the best, Gamaliel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Honored to be here. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Now, final session, the last but not the least, which is AI and enterprise transformation for organizations. My good friend Michael Glaros is the presenter. Thank you, Michael. Michael, it's just 10 a.m. in Bellevue, or is it Seattle? Where exactly are you?
Just north of Seattle, so maybe about 10 minutes north of city center, Seattle. Yeah, 10 a.m. 12 after, just getting going. So really great to be here.
Good, thank you. So let me read Michael's profile. It's a very intimidating one, but I'll still read it at that. So Michael Glaros. Michael is a recognized leader in information security and enterprise blockchain and AI solutions. Worked with Microsoft for about a decade, and he served as principal program manager with the Microsoft Cloud Industry AI team. He initiated a customer success program that fostered generative AI solution incubation for over 300 companies. On the Azure Blockchain Service team, he generated $3.2 million in cloud consumption revenue, played a key role in integrating trade, finance, insurance, and capital market networks onto Azure Blockchain, including the Swiss Digital Exchange, and led the first partnership of Azure Blockchain in Nigeria with InterSwitch, which transformed solutions for small and medium businesses through innovative blockchain technology. Michael's career at Microsoft began as lead risk officer for the Azure Global Ecosystem team, where he developed crucial security risk assessment methodologies and executed risk treatment plans for over 130 service teams, including ISO 27001, SOC 123, and FedRAMP certifications for Azure. Prior to Microsoft, Michael was the Senior Director of Information Security at Outer Wall, Coinsta, and Redbox, overseeing the PCI Tier 1 merchant certification program for over 60,000 kiosks. He worked at Sony Pictures Entertainment, where he served as Executive Director of Information Security, leading the studio to achieve Hollywood's first 27,001 information security certification. So while others were watching movies, he was making sure there was enterprise security. Was that interesting or boring, Michael?
It was extremely interesting because you had to sort of navigate both corporate concerns as well as sort of the creative process, talent, and their particular way of working. So
beautiful. Michael began his career by launching the premier website for the Foreign Commercial Service at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. Upon returning to U.S., Michael launched the online banking system for IQ Credit Union, then landed significant roles at KPMG Consulting and Deloitte, where he created strategic application security services practices that contributed 4 million USD in annual sales. Ladies and gentlemen, it's late night, but it's still exciting over here at the AI Transformation Summit. Welcome with me, Michael Glaris. Can I see your emojis? Can I see your love signs? Are you bored? Can I see your comments? What do you think so far? And I also dropped a link in the window. Please fill the comments window, fill the feedback window. Let's know what you think. Let's know what to improve before tomorrow's session at 2 p.m. Watt. Over to you, Michael. All the best.
Wonderful, Tosin. Thank you so much for that really kind introduction. Hopefully this sort of screen share, all the tech is working, because obviously now going from Microsoft to different platforms is always a bit of a challenge for us, but really great to be here. As Tosin mentioned, so now we're kind of starting a new direction here, looking at sort of the how do we think about different adoption strategies, different approaches for generative AI, and for, in particular, enterprise use cases. And let me just had a hiccup here on the share. Let me start again. Hopefully this works. There we go. Looks like that one took. Brilliant. All right. So the first thing I'd like to do before we get into kind of, we've had a fair bit of lecture. If everyone is able to, if you have access to a browser, I'd love to just go into ChatGPT and see what kind of responses you get in terms of asking for help with a use case. So what you could do is pick a typical corporate department or a focus area that you work on. Could be HR, could be legal, marketing, finance, and just ask for some ideas for some use cases. Say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm in this design workshop. I'm brainstorming some use cases. What do you got for me? And we can maybe perhaps do this together, in real time. Just take a minute or two and see sort of what type of recommendations. And then if you can put them in the chat, I want to look at the chat to see what folks are coming up with as these come about. We'll give that a minute and see what everybody comes with. And I could even do likewise. Here, ChatGPT, and say, I need some help imagining some generative AI use cases for corporate finance. And so here we'll start to see things like, and then this is kind of my self-challenge for today, is can I do better than ChatGPT in terms of, you see some scenarios here. We've got one on financial statement creation, predictive modeling, budget planning. Okay, some pretty good tangible examples. So we'll see that. Let's check the chat real quick, see what you all came up with, if anything. Nothing came through, no worries. It's late, we'll press on. So let's go into the heart of our talk. Paused. Apologies for that. The sharing is not being friendly here. Okay, let's try that again.
Do you need some help, Michael?
No, I'm good, Tosin. There we are. It just wants me to start the slideshow. It's got a particular order of operations there. It seems to really like it doesn't seem to like the slideshow view. So I'll just stick with it in kind of the this view here. And I think this is a better view. Great. Okay. So what I want to first talk about is some of the common pain points, because what we really see is that there's this incredible enthusiasm with getting hands-on to ChatGPT. And as we saw, it's got a fair amount of domain expertise to start with. So you can start asking things about different industries, different use cases and scenarios. What it doesn't necessarily do well is then mapping those to the pain points. So as we saw in that brief demonstration, it'll give us some pretty decent material to work with, but it doesn't necessarily think about the actual pain points that the specific role or persona is dealing with. So like, for instance, Wally mentioned, it's in those individuals who don't know about AI and know how to do their jobs with AI. And that's kind of the key of what we're going to talk about today from an adoption perspective is how do you think about sort of bringing that creative generative assistant process? So thinking about having the knowledge about the existing workflow and then augmenting it with this generative capability. How do we then incorporate diverse data sources to empower the reasoning and make it go further faster? And then ultimately tailoring it. And so, for instance, these are some areas we've seen. So in my work with Microsoft and across the partner ecosystem, we've seen, and again, what we saw with the ChatGPT example, ideas for generative use cases. So for instance, things like in HR job posting. Certainly, if you see any of these that resonate, would love for folks to don't hesitate to come off mute, and would love to hear any ideas that you could think of. Absent of those, and unfortunately, Tosin, when I do this, I can't see the chat, so feel free to shout out anything that folks present in the chat. But would love to sort of take folks up on the challenge of if there are particular domain areas that they're interested in, and how do we think about the use cases. I'll talk to a couple in absence of that. In particular, legal. We've seen a lot of interest and a lot of work being done to look at areas like contract management, where I want to ask a generative chatbot to reason over a set of contracts and purchase orders and agreements I have, perhaps across with my trading partners, and summarize for me what are common trends or what are the contracts that are coming close to expiration and renewal. So these would be some examples of some use cases that you can use as kind of starting places or icebreakers to then begin your exploration of generative AI. But this is where we typically start to see problems come in, because what often happens is that when a particular domain area starts to take the lead, there's questions that arise. So it's great that I see how I might have this data and I might be able to reason with it and I might be able to create a meaningful solution, but how do I demonstrate real value with it? It's one thing to have the chatbot show the process of conversation, generating an answer, and recommending a next step. But is it really adaptable to fit the actual needs of that business? So it's one thing for a finance department to say, here's your common payment terms, here's your supplier agreements that are pending expiration. It's a whole other order of magnitude to then translate that into then what's an action that I could take? How do I actually turn that into a sophisticated workflow and automated workflow that then takes the next step? And then going even further, how do I then apply that to not only that particular workflow, but sort of other adjacent industries that I might need to deal with? So what we're seeing based on these experiences, and I've had a couple of them, of course, working with the partner ecosystem, working with software development companies who are trying to take advantage of this generative AI moment to build new and interesting solutions, but also in some hackathon experiences. So back in April, I was in Cyprus doing a hackathon with a cohort of 5 different startups, each with a different industry challenge. You know, one in food service, one in health tech, one in regulatory government affairs, public sector, one in shipping and logistics. And what we were all struggling with was the fact that they approached the problem with very different definitions of what they were expecting AI to do. And we found that a common framework, having a common way to scope the problem, having a common tool set of defining the problem, actually set us up better for success. So a lot of times we're so anxious to sort of jump right into the tool, start building, start working with the technology, seeing what it generates. But really, if we have a good design practice up front to frame the problem, that actually sets us up better to then understand, okay, what do we need for AI to be successful? And so what that looks like is really 2 things. One is, can we really understand the strategic opportunity that the AI solution could offer us with respect to the specific business challenge we're facing. So if it's in a specific industry, if it's in a specific department, what is the implication of adopting AI there? Like, what does it mean? Does it mean more sales? Does it mean cost savings? Does it mean massive productivity benefit? Does it mean a increase in reliability and accuracy? So we really need to frame that strategic opportunity. Second, we need to think about the execution potential, because it's all well and good to have that strategic opportunity, but if we don't think about or factor in the availability of the training data, the change management expectations of the users that we're going to change their way of working, the IT safeguards that we need from a security and privacy perspective, all of that could basically sink our idea before it even gets off the ground. And what we would want to avoid is a very costly period of prototyping and experimentation if the execution potential is very low because of some of those factors. So how do we deal with this? Well, we structure it. So we have a set of templates where we're really going to break these things down. And the key here is you have to do sort of a due diligence. You want to do enough analysis where you can show that you can do sort of a like-for-like comparison. So as you're evaluating a set of use cases, so you've gone to ChatGPT, you've generated some ideas, or you looked at that chart where we had a number of different potential departments and use case opportunities to work with. Now, how do you compare them to figure out which of those is perhaps best suited to then generate learnings and create sort of the type of conditions to actually accelerate through that strategic opportunity and give you something to work with? This also sets up a cross-functional dialogue, because one of the things I've been really impressed with throughout this conference is it's not just the sort of usual suspects. What I mean by that is software engineers, data scientists, sort of the technologists who are driving this because the technology is new, is interesting, and they want a set of projects to validate that and work with. But really, to make AI adoption truly effective and impactful, it's got to be cross-functional, where you have business leaders representing finance, representing marketing, legal, compliance. All this cross-disciplinary work has to be done so that the technologists understand the business needs, again, that before and after, if AI is successful, what does that look like? And then the business folks really understand where the technology currently is state of the art, without feeling this degree of intimidation that, oh, it's very complex and complicated, and I can't understand it. So the elements are, we really break this down as follows, and let me jump right into the template, because this is the way to really think about it. The first thing we do that I think is rather innovative is we don't try to write this exhaustive analysis of total addressable market, and here's the use case, and here's all the technology it's going to, we kind of set that to a side. We really focus on kind of these 5 key things, is actually 6 if you really start with the top there. That header, that executive sponsor, is really critical. You want to understand who is the department head that's going to get behind this use case and provide resource, especially when the going gets tough. From there, you want to think about what are the problems to solve. These should be a series of 3 to 5 bullet points. Here are specific pain points that a specific role in the company or the department is experiencing today. Each of those pain points on the left in the problem space then needs to be accompanied by equivalent solution hypotheses on the right. If we had an AI assistant that helped us process invoices, if we had an AI assistant that understood the product catalog, if we had an AI assistant that so on and so forth, and we'll see a practical example so you can really kind of sink your teeth into it in just a moment. These should ultimately map up to the business objectives, lower left. You really want to frame the problem and solution hypotheses against and in alignment with the company's business objectives. Because again, we don't want to just be doing AI for the sake of doing it as it's the flavor of the month, or it seems to be an interesting technology that could look really nice on my CV. That should also be joined up with objectives and key results. We want to have metrics. So part of framing good hypotheses is setting up, is it something that's measurable? Can we measure an improvement in customer satisfaction? Can we measure an improvement in productivity gain in processing more invoices over a shorter period of time, let's say, those need to be framed out here. And then that strategic fit is a qualitative score we're going to look at in just a moment. But right now, really want to ground in the type of sort of information we're going to collect to make these determinations about what's a good use case to adopt. What we're looking for is not so much the elegance of the idea. I think a lot of times folks feel that, my AI idea has to be completely novel and completely innovative and disruptive and nothing that's ever been done before. And it's not about the elegance of the idea, but rather, again, going back to something that Wale said, it's about learning. It's about learn by doing. How do we sort of identify the use case that has the ability to generate the most, learning potential? Some of the things that Prof. Duarte was showing earlier in the veterinary medicine, which was fascinating, was these very practical applications of, here's the skin lesions or the skin conditions and pathologies of the cattle, very pragmatic. And you might think from an outsider, somebody who knows nothing about veterinary medicine or agriculture, I would think, wow, I'd want some grandiose big bang use case to make cows live longer or produce more milk or something like this. But having something that really generated, learnings and move the discipline forward was much more important. And when it comes together, there's three things we look at to generate those learnings: business value, the desirability from the perspective of who the power user is going to be that's going to adopt this AI solution, and then is the technology in a state today that we can apply it. We don't want to be reliant on some future conditions or some new releases, but we want to deal with what's present today, and we want to combine these three together to make that assessment. So if I look at them, again, it's one page. We're really not trying at this stage to get into a very exhaustive comparison of different AI models or super refined solution architecture diagram, but rather these three key areas: the business value. We really want to understand now the tactical alignment. So the first pitch we talked about, the strategic opportunity, was the strategic fit. If the overall objective of the company is to increase sales by 10%, now we need to break that down tactically. Is there a specific product line or a specific action we're going to take that ladder up to that business goal? And in value creation, it should be a very specific identification of, are we talking about cost savings or new revenue creation? And then we need to have a change management point of view. So what's our estimation at this point? Do we feel that the business is ready? If this solution were ready, what's the readiness of the business to uptake it and to apply it? Then we have that experience layer in the middle. We really want to target one persona. And this is something that we've learned a lot about, is that if you start your use case off with too many personas in scope, it becomes quite difficult because that change resistance on the right tends to go way up. Again, these are folks that have an existing way of working. Again, go back to our veterinarians here we saw earlier. They have a very specific discipline, a very specific way of working, and you're introducing something net new. It's not that they can't practice their existing skill set today. They do that quite well. But what we're talking about is a transformation. So we need to really understand from their lens, is this transformation, is it a value add, or is it going to be a distraction because all of the different learning techniques and tools and processes they have to go through are going to take them away from their real day-to-day job? And then on the technical side of things, again, we're really taking care at this point not to get into a wallow on all the specific possibilities from a tech perspective. We don't, at this stage, want to be picking models and doing designs and doing all of the sort of complex tasks, but rather we really want to look at operational risks. Are there some pretty significant, perhaps regulatory compliance hurdles or data security blockers that might give us pause? Because if this solution or use case were to really start to scale, those become significant barriers and potential harms. Same with safeguards, things like the ethical considerations, the sort of accuracy of the model that it's producing. Do we feel that those are or are not in place such that this is a use case worth pursuing and adopting? And then finally, that fit. Is this something that really requires this AI technology to take advantage of? Or at this page, is there another viable alternative that's perhaps a bit more mature that we could do the same thing with? And is it really just a question of, we were just trying to do AI because it's cool? Or are we doing AI because it's absolutely necessary to the use case? And so let's take an example and fill in the blanks. So what I've constructed here is a use case with this idea of a purchasing agent. So let's imagine a e-commerce scenario, something we should all be kind of somewhat familiar with, where instead of the traditional frustrating search where you have to know the specific item you're looking for, or you have to search in a very specific way that's engineered towards the buying experience that the e-commerce retailer wants to offer, wouldn't it be great if I could just type in a natural language search and say, I'm looking for a pair of brown shoes to go with my outfit, or I'm looking for a new winter coat because the temperature's starting to drop here in Seattle, and I need something that's waterproof, that's lined, and going to keep me warm as temperatures head towards zero, that kind of thing. This should then enhance the buying experience because as the system produces recommendations, the shopper needs to be able to counteract with conversation and say, well, that coat's okay, but I was really hoping for something in black, or I wanted something that was, that had a hood, or, being able to then have that experience where it's much more engaging because of the conversation. And then finally, having that tailored recommendation, perhaps it's looking into my buying history. It knows I like a particular brand, or I like a particular length of coat or material. So it should factor and it should appreciate that as we have this conversation, I'm conversing with Michael, and I know sort of his preferences and what he's on about. And so let's start to fill this in. So as I talked about, a couple bullets on the problem. Customers are having difficulty discovering products, and they don't feel like they're getting tailored or relevant recommendations. It feels just like a typical generic experience where I go in, I do a search, and I really have to know what I'm searching for up front instead of really kind of browsing like you would in sort of a brick and mortar store. Then the hypotheses. So solution hypothesis number one, the customer is using natural language to view products and to ask about products in a very conversational way that feels very, very intuitive. Doesn't require a lot of training, doesn't require a lot of expertise in terms of how the store product catalog and items are currently listed. And then wouldn't it be great if this chatbot also had access to my order history, the availability of products? So again, it's not just going to show me something that, oh, here's the ideal product. Sorry, it's out of stock. You can't complete the purchase. Or, gosh, Michael, I've never seen you before. I have no idea about your size, your preferences, your colors that you prefer, your materials, all that kind of thing. Business objectives. So here's what we talk about, from a strategic overall perspective. Our fictitious e-commerce company might be very keen to improve overall customer satisfaction. They might want to have sort of a brand storytelling perspective as well. So again, as this conversation is happening over product recommendations, it should be infused with kind of the brand storytelling principles. And then ultimately, we're trying to grow revenue because we want to say, hey, Michael, not only do you need this jacket, but here's some really great boots that pair nicely with it. So giving me that sort of feel-good moment and that experience where now I'm inclined to buy more products because I've had that conversational experience instead of just get in, get out, get my jacket, and get on my way. And then we can actually start to translate these, and this is where that cross-functional conversation is so key. Let's actually put in, we expect a 10% increase in customer satisfaction. Now, again, doesn't so much matter what those exact numbers are. What does matter is that there is a conversation that in the room, we're able to hash those through and we're able to get to specific numbers that we put into the key results so that they're testable, so that when we start to design our solution hypothesis, and this is where adoption becomes really, really key, is you want to pair that solution hypothesis with the key result and say, hey, when we went to MVP, to the minimum viable product, did we actually see a noticeable increase in customer satisfaction? Was it 10% or less? And if it's less, let's dig into that. That's the learnings we're talking about, is how close did the hypothesis get to the key results? If they failed, what were some of the key factors in the failure? And then we'll talk about that strategic fit here, again, as I mentioned, in just a bit. On the execution potential side, so that was on the strategy side. Now let's shift to the execution potential side. Okay. So going to the tactical piece, it's really about customer retention and satisfaction. So, okay, we saw the goals. We want to drive, more products, better brand storytelling, but like specifically, is Michael coming back after he had that great experience buying the coat, getting upsold the boots? Now is he coming back for trousers? What does that start to look like? Are we seeing the increased revenue that we expect? Can we say, again, we talk about it around the room, all the different department heads are present. We all agree that yes, 6 to 12 months is a reasonable window to go from sort of initial solution design to solution testing to solution launch. That, again, we're making sure, and again, this is why that accountability is so critical, is you want everybody to commit up front or say, hey, if we think that this is going to take too long, let's note that down as well. Key persona, shoppers, again, one persona here. We're not yet worried about all the different types of personas that the solution could potentially be available to, but we're really focusing in on that shopping experience. We're very tightly focused there. We think that their ability to adopt it could be rather high. We think that that middle piece there is all about what's their likelihood to adopt it. We think it's high because it offers a better shopping experience. Anything, who wouldn't want a better shopping experience? And we also think then that piece on the right, their willingness to their change resistance rather is low because of the fact that we think it's already plugged into the existing website. It's a function of basically natural language, so they should just be able to type and go and use the new solution. From the feasibility perspective, we do have to be worried about privacy and security. If we are in the business of tailored recommendations, we really have to think about not only sort of accessing my history and my preferences and whether or not I, as an end customer, am okay with that, but we also have to think about things like, for instance, the model accuracy. Because what if I'm asking for, an outdoor coat and I'm getting recommendations for a sport coat or a blazer, something like this. From the safeguards perspective, because this is public facing, we do have to think about content filtration. You have to think about what if the model starts doing things that are very inappropriate or very suggestive. We also have to make sure that it's aware of sort of my product catalog and not my competitor's product catalog, so that they're then going off and following a recommendation to go look at some other site. And so ultimately we think that this is again a very strong affinity for an AI solution because of the fact that it's conversational, it's based and grounded in data, and it has this sort of ability to go from sort of a chat experience into a sort of transactional buying experience. So now that's the sort of definition side of things. So we said, okay, problem one was we felt that we didn't have a good framework to classify these use cases. So that way, if we were looking at multiple use cases in one sitting, it would be difficult to compare and contrast, and we would feel compelled to either do all of them or none of them. Now, let's imagine we've done that same exercise for a couple of other use cases. So hypothetically, we looked at sort of our purchasing agent. Maybe there was also a AI tool for better software development, and maybe an AI tool for smart customer support using more sophisticated reading and rendering of our customer support procedures. So how would we then think about those three side by side? Because one of the keys, again, in this adoption framework is we want to be in a place where start with one. It doesn't mean that the other ideas are bad ideas or we're going to completely shelve them. But instead, what we want to do is stack rank and compare and cite these use cases one against the other. So that way we have a use case we get started on, learn from, and then we can always take the learnings back to our other ideas. And hopefully we start to create this momentum where use cases can come to market much quicker because now we've seen the characteristics of what makes a good use case. So now enter the strategic fit piece. It's very simple. 5-point qualitative scale on the lower right. And again, the whole point here is imagine you're in a room, you're in a workshop setting, IT is present, finance is present, operations is present, marketing is present, and everybody has that opportunity to talk through what do they think their ratings are. And so once you've presented sort of the problem, the hypothesis, once you've presented everything on this slide here for each use case, the goal is you're trying to assign each of those use cases a value. This value should really be sort of led by that executive sponsor. So the reason we have that executive sponsor up there at the top is that's the person that feels very convicted that if I had this solution in place, I could achieve these results. And they're kind of the sort of champion of that score. Then the other members of the room, that cross-functional audience, now you see that execution potential score at the lower right. That's the counterweight that says, okay, hang on a second, though. We have to factor in change management. We have to factor in tactical business alignment. We have to factor in technical feasibility. And so those two, there should be some tension there. And what we're ultimately trying to get to is this idea of this rationale that says, okay, we think that on the strategic side of things, we're going to delight more users. We're going to have a better personalization experience. We're going to get to, bigger basket sizes, bigger customer satisfaction. But it might mean that we have to really be cautious and go a bit slower with regard to security and privacy, since we're going to be dealing with the personal preferences and interactions and buying history of our public. And so then the goal is you're trying to get to something that looks like this. Is we see those a 2x2 here where you've got the strategic opportunity as our y-axis. So again, 1 to 5 makes it very simple to say, okay, the higher up we go, what we're trying to do is find that use case that gets into that accelerate to MVP quadrant. And here we plotted it. We basically just make it simple. We said our purchasing agent, it has characteristics of, a 4x4, that, 4 rating on the strategic side, x-axis execution, we also graded out as a 4. And what's nice about this is it can be iterative. So if it feels like you didn't land in a place where the room is satisfied with, you can go back and very easily change those rankings until, again, you're looking for that one use case that lands in that accelerate to MVP. Just looking at those other quadrants there, if my use case landed in incubate, it meant that I've got a lot of good execution potential. So the technology is there today. I could build it out, but maybe the business value isn't quite what it needs to be. It's not super interesting from a cost savings or revenue creation perspective. If I go upper left, research, there the strategic opportunity, the business opportunity is really compelling, but perhaps the technology isn't where it needs to be. Maybe we don't have enough data. Maybe the models are still very inaccurate for this particular use case. Maybe the packaging of it, for instance, we talked about in the veterinary scenarios how critical it was to be sort of remote, no web access dependency, no power dependency. So maybe those are some technical constraints that we can't quite get to the business value yet until we solve for that execution potential piece. And then the shelf really is a case where, neither the business value nor the technical feasibility or the change appetite is there. Maybe our users are too skeptical and they have too demanding of requirements to then be able to actually move that execution potential to the right. So this is really the key to adoption, is being able to quickly reason over, let's say, 5 use cases in a setting and make a determination as a cross-functional team. This is the one we want to get behind. This is the one we want to sponsor. It's got the right blend of sort of ready today in terms of the technology is there. We see that we could put a plan together and accelerate it, but also there's sufficient business value for us to then warrant the investment. Because again, we know it's still going to be learnings. There's still going to be rocky times ahead. It's not all smooth sailing because this is emerging technology. So you want to make sure that if you are going to invest, that there's rewards on the other end. So let's get to then some of the quick value drivers to consider. We don't want to necessarily, don't have too much time to go fully into this, but really when we think about taking that step into, okay, we've prioritized our use case, we feel good about it. Now this is a key here, is you don't necessarily want to do this exercise for all of those use cases under consideration. Just as with the technology design piece, you don't want to necessarily do a design for something that you're going to shelve or you're going to incubate, but rather once you've identified that use case that gets into that accelerate to MVP quadrant, then you want to think about sort of price testing. Then you want to think about sort of your margins. You want to think about your potential business models of whether you're going to offer this as a freemium model, subscription-based, usage-based, and so forth. But really the key here is start to do this work only after you've really identified that prioritized use case you're going to go after, And then you've got sort of a much richer, again, because you've made the hypotheses, you've put in positions and markers about the KPI and the performance metrics you want to pursue, now start to then shape it with this value driver discussion. And really, I can measure that value in terms of the trial customers. I can look at adoption, how they're using it. I can look at sort of their perception of value based on the sort of different price models and drive experiments off of that. I can also really look at sort of the customer lens in terms of which ones are not willing to pay. So I can really start to think about how do they then start to then give me sort of their prioritized enhancements, their feedback, and then ultimately start to put together a roadmap. So again, that's why it's critical to do that prioritization, the definition prioritization, then do the value combination, the value driving discussion. That sets you up for a really good adoption program. So getting started. Hopefully today, and this material is available to you. If you want to take advantage of these templates, we would love that. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you feel excited and it's like, yes, I could then take this strategic opportunity and execution potential template, start to map use cases and get after it. And that sets me up for success. Alternatively, this is something I have done for literally hundreds of software development companies from my tenure at Microsoft, and now doing it kind of on my own because I want to, especially on, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is I feel that the small and medium-sized markets are underserved. I feel like the hyperscalers are very well suited to deal with this sort of global 1,000 type of companies, but there's this massive mid-sized and small, medium-sized market that's underserved that needs this work. So we would like to very much be in the business of helping them think through and apply this material in much the same way. Just a sample of kind of what it looks like. We've got some information there. And then, of course, you can get in touch with us. So here's our details. And at that point, Tosin, would love to connect with everybody, stay connected, and also hear if the audience has any questions that we can discuss.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Do we have any questions for Michael before he goes, before we call it a day tonight? Do we have any questions for Michael, please? You can either unmute yourself and talk, or you can drop it in the chat window. Thank you, Nana. He says this is a very good template framework, and it is very relatable. Thank you so much, Michael.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Seems everybody. Okay, go ahead, Nana.
I think, yeah. Thank you very much, Michael. Like, I really appreciate what you shared so far. I want to hear from you if you feel that companies should, for anyone that wants to run any AI-related project, there should be that AI readiness check within the company before we even go to prioritizing use cases or anything that can be executed. Is there a need to do an AI readiness assessment for the company? Or is that what you're?
Yeah, it's a great question. No, no. Sorry, go for it.
He's done. He's done.
Oh, it's done. Okay, fantastic. No, it's a great question. And actually, I would say that this would be part of that readiness. And what I mean by that is, for any company that's sort of on the fence about, for instance, let's say we're unsure whether or not we have the skilling. That's exactly what that technical feasibility evaluation is designed to do. So when you think about execution potential, you think about, okay, if we were to embark on this AI solution, would we have the necessary skilling within our company to maintain it? Would we have the necessary skilling to respond to a bug or a maintenance issue or a customer support issue? So I would actually say this should almost come before that readiness. And the readiness piece, I think, would be much more impactful if, let's say, you prioritize a use case and you have a particular investment area that you've identified that you want to build out. great. Now do the readiness area scope to that instead of, because if you do a readiness, readiness typically comes with a market survey, and this is what your competitors are doing. A lot of stuff that, again, it's not that it's not valuable, but it could be just distracting and it could be overwhelming. And instead, if the company makes it very focused on, hey, this is a particular area we think we could benefit from, but let's do a readiness assessment, I think that's a better use of that resource.
Okay, Nana's happy. Any other person? Okay, in the absence of any other one, thank you, Valerie. Thanks for your comments. I dropped the link a few moments ago for the feedback. I'd appreciate it if you can come again and just go online to the URL there. That URL has the agenda for the event. It has the connect to the store. It has a link to the feedback. Yes, we will work on the slides. There is all the details you have out there. If you want the replay, if you want the slides, all the details are on the event portal and the event store. So you'll be able to do whatever is necessary over there. Just before we call it a day, I know we are behind schedule by about 30, 40 minutes. Can we all just ask one or two comments, share one or two thoughts about the event today? What do you feel? What did you learn? What do you think you want to learn? And how prepared are you for the session tomorrow, 2 p.m. tomorrow, not 4 p.m., 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon? And just come tell us what did you learn and what have you gained today? And of course, then you can also fill the feedback form. Anybody goes first, and if you want to say something, just raise your hand so we don't bump into each other. Who goes first? Okay, nobody wants to say anything. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, then. Oh, Nana, okay.
Okay, I think I'm the only one speaking, but let me go for it. So this has been, for me, a very interesting session. I've been in the AI space for quite some time, and gaining from this kind of session means that there is value that you're offering to everyone. I must say, like right from the policy part to it being applied to vet men, and seeing how different folks are adopting AI. It's really very revealing. I really appreciate the very last session, Michael, on the very practical and relatable way to ensure successful adoption of AI. And so thank you very much, Tosin. I must confess that this is a very good option. And I'm not going to change anything. Come tomorrow. I think the way you're presenting it is very fun.
Thank you. If you enjoyed Michael's session, then you should also come for Jeremiah's session tomorrow. It's also something similar. Jeremiah could have been here tonight, but he has another workshop. So Jeremiah is coming in tomorrow afternoon. So you should also watch out for Jeremiah's session. And Dr. Medwani's event. Tomorrow is going to be super power packed. It's like having two of Michael tomorrow. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for the kind words, Valerie. I appreciate everything. Okay, good night, everyone. And tomorrow is not 4 p.m. Watt, it's 2 p.m. Watt because it's Saturday. So we want you to just come in, do your 2-3 hours, and off you go. Looking forward to catch you tomorrow. Thanks for your time, Michael Glaros. Thanks for your time. You came in very early. Thanks for your time, El Nosi. Thanks for your time, Edmond. Thanks for your time, Marie. Thanks for your time, Valerie. Thanks for your time, Tilayo. Thanks for your time, Adalbi and Ajibola and Gamaliel. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. We appreciate you. This is an amazing event today, and we believe that we can do more together. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And from here, it's good night. Thank you, and God bless you.